Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell.
Adriana walked slowly down the street, deeply and eagerly, breathing in the first gusts of the light spring breeze. The wind, as if rejoicing with the girl, played merrily with her golden brown curls, each time caressing her pale, gaunt young face. At last, thought the girl, I can't believe it. I can breathe freely again, walk freely, and no longer need to go to bed after bedtime. This is the greatest happiness of man, freedom. Adriana had the right to say that because she had been released from prison only a few days ago. Adriana was lucky, having served 3 years out of 5. Adriana was under the amnesty program and received a legal pardon. However, despite this, it was very hard for the girl, especially at first. Constant intimidation and indecent proposals from the side, their exorbitantly accurate escort named James, made Adriana's life on the zone almost unbearable. Every now and then James caught up with Adriana, from the morning roll call in the yard of the colony to the shrill signal of the end of the work shift in the local sewing shop. The man, like a mountain, piled all his fat on the small, fragile Adriana, and pressing her as hard as he could against the dirty wall, so that the girl could not move, began to whisper passionately in her ear. Adriana, don't be silly. What do you care? Would it be a waste of you? The escort's hands, meanwhile, shamelessly tried to feel the girl's legs. James' thick, sticky fingers were trying to get under the edge of Adriana's tight, dark blue work skirt. The young prisoner, realizing that she could not escape from the clutches of this beast, crossed her sharp knees and turned her face to the wall. Sometimes Adriana felt as if he would crush her, or that she would accidentally break her neck, trying to dodge his disgusting, slobbering kisses. I've had my eye on you for a long time, since day one. The huge man continued to confess his feelings. James was only 32, but because of a lot of extra weight, he looked much older and unpleasant. You see such a beautiful girl, but in our hole. Come on, say something, at least give me a word of affection. Adriana persisted in her silence until James's patience began to fray at the seams. You shouldn't. You're wasting your breath, girl. His lustful moans became more and more filled with unkind growls. Do you think you're special or something? You think you're going to get hit on just because you have a pretty face. I'll have you in the SHU, you little bitch. You'll be eating out of the same bowl as the cockroaches. You'll do all your time from call to call. No parole for you, you understand me? Finally, Adriana looked at him in her indifferent, light green eyes. There was nothing but contempt and absolute steadfastness in her own convictions. It's up to you, guard, Adriana said calmly, but it is better to sleep with cockroaches and to choke on breadcrumbs instead of porridge than to lie in the same bed with you, Mr. James. The guardsman's cheeks began to chafe like jelly in an open can of stew, and the lumpy, uneven skin on his face was covered with red spots. James pounded the girl with his huge fist under her breath and hissed angrily as Adriana tried to suck in air noisily, at the same time bending in half from the pain that pierced her stomach and chest. Bold, huh? But nothing, we'll see how soon you sing differently when I send the right people to you. Look, Adriana, look at me. James forcefully grabbed Adriana by the hair and jerked her head up, forcing her to look directly into his hateful, almost colorless eyes. A triumphant smile played on his lips, thin and scarlet like earthworms. I'm going to break you, you slaughtered goat. You'll be begging for mercy when I come to you in the evenings. But I'm not going to stop, no. We're going to have a lot of fun, believe me. James stuck out his long, thick tongue and swiped it across the girl's neck, so that Adriana wanted to scream in the sense of disgust and humiliation. Unfortunately, Adriana realized that her screams and attempts to draw the attention of her superiors to the situation might not serve her well, making her situation in the colony worse. Instead, she bit her knuckles with all her might and sobbed silently, putting all her resentment and pain into those choking sounds. The next few weeks, the girl had to spend in unaccountable fear for her life. Adriana forever remembered what it tasted like, this terrible feeling, when instead of falling into a deep and empty sleep after a hard shift at work, she was forced to be on guard all the time. Every now and then, listening to every suspicious rustle that came from her cellmates. James, of course, did not stop all this time to mock the girl, then forced the prison cook to put a couple of nails in her liquid porridge at lunch for a sweet, as the disgusting guard later put it, then constantly watched for the slightest violation of the prisoner Adriana, discipline. All hoped thus to coerce her into intimacy or to send her to the punishment cell. But Adriana was also far from stupid. The colony had quickly taught her to keep her eyes open and not to let those who wanted to take advantage of what little Adriana still had left of her free life. In the 3 years she spent in prison, Miranda, or Adriana as almost everyone from her parents to friends to acquaintances called her, matured very quickly. Life behind barbed wire in some ways made the girl wiser, and at the same time taught her almost Christian humility. Not so long ago, just before her release, Adriana turned 24, but she felt as if she had lived her whole life behind bars. In the end, the fate of the fat guard was decided by chance. One day, a special squad of fighters and internal security officers raided the colony. That's when it turned out that in addition to an unhealthy love for young prisoners, James had much more serious sins. It turned out that for a long time he had been working for a major criminal authority held in another prison. This authority managed to establish a very profitable business within the walls of the colony, supplied prisoners illegal substances, as well as deliver to them illegal, in local places, cell phones, so that women could contact the outside world, or, on the contrary, fool simple-minded citizens, turning all the known schemes of fraud. The most interesting thing was that James organized his dirty deeds with the help of the head of the colony, so that in the end they were taken away from there together, in the same service truck. After that, Adriana was able to breathe a little freer. A couple of days later, they were introduced to the new head of the colony, Michael, thanks to whom the girl's life during the rest of the term became a little easier. The fact that Adriana was a nurse by the nature of her professional activity. The new owner of the prison suffered from a rare disease in which injections had to be given every day. Against this background, she and the prisoner met, and Charles turned out to be an extremely decent man. He was in his early 60s. He never molested the girl. On the contrary, he treated her with due understanding and even sympathized with her difficult fate. Miranda, according to your file, you worked as a nurse in the past, right? Isn't that right? Michael asked her once, summoning her individually to his office. That's right, Chief. Adriana answered in a practiced tone, but she was a little out of breath. What would the new commander demand of her? Charles looked carefully at the girl, and then suddenly for her, embarrassedly lowered his gaze. Adriana, I have a favor to ask of you. The man began. Adriana felt her feet grow cold. Don't get me wrong. He continued in a slightly agitated voice. You see, I've suffered from a rare form of gout all my life. With my diagnosis, I have to inject myself with the drug every single day. You know, in this line of work, that's a little difficult, considering what chatty types the doctors here are, even after this James thing. Anyway, I can't give myself an injection, and the local nurse, Clara, is sticking a needle in my soft spot like she's cutting a pig in her village. For God's sake! Adriana could hardly contain her relief and laughter, and she thought she was going to be harassed again with some vulgar nonsense. And here she was. "Yes, I've heard that Clara has a heavy hand," she said with a slight smile. "But she's a professional of the highest caliber, having worked in the village paramedic station for 5 years. The girl tried to stand up for her colleague. It's obvious that she worked in the township. Michael nodded. "In general, I need a nurse who will give me medicines normally and will not talk about anything in front of strangers. Somehow, I think you, Miranda, are the best person for this role. I have read the circumstances of your story and realize you are here more out of your own stupidity and naivety than for an actual crime. I'm not going to offer you anything illegal or indecent, just a purely medical request." The girl lowered her gaze in embarrassment, her cheeks covered with an embarrassed blush. "Of course, sir, the head of the colony. I will do whatever it takes from me to ensure your health. After all, it is my profession. No need for that." The man waved his hand at her. Michael hesitated for a moment and then said, looking out the window, "I heard how that James was mocking you here. It's all right, Miranda. He's going to have to experience all the delights of the socializing he forced on himself and the other girls. He'll answer for everything, you bastard." Adriana hesitantly raised her eyes to the colony chief, then spoke briefly. "Adriana." "What?" Michael didn't understand. "Call me Adriana. Everyone does that," the girl explained, smiling. Charles smiled warmly and paternally at the young prisoner. Since that day, Adriana was able to realize at least some of her medical potential, which, however, was very dissatisfied with the staff nurse Clara and to feel not so useless as it was before. The girl gave injections to the head of the colony and kept silent, keeping the details of their conversations in those sensitive moments under a complete ban. Michael was a widower who had lost his entire family in a plane crash, including his young 16-year-old daughter Kelly, whom he missed dearly. Perhaps Adriana reminded him of his untimely departed daughter. The girl did not know exactly, but Charles was kind to her, and in due time, when the order of general amnesty was announced, in time to hustle, providing Adriana the opportunity to get out early in the same year. In addition, Michael wrote to one of his old acquaintances, the owner of an Apasian cafe in the center of the city, and he took Adriana in as a cleaner after her release. The girl needed the job very much, so Adriana never tired of thanking the head of the colony, promising that she would definitely write him a letter after she settled down on the outside. Come on, really. I'd be glad to help you get a job as a nurse, but with your article, you can't. Not for the next couple years anyway." "That's okay," the young woman answered him. "You've already done so much for me. I'd, on the contrary, feel uncomfortable that you vouch for me both to the state and to the director of this cafe. Mason is a good man, calm. You cannot be afraid of him." Michael assured her. He and I ate a lot of salt together in his time in the service. But he decided to go into business, and Charles waved his hands eloquently. "Looking after this henhouse, as you see." He laughed unkindly. "But nothing in such work, as they say, is also necessary." Charles and Adriana parted very well, even hugging each other goodbye. The girl had never thought that she would miss the head of the colony. But she did. Deep down, Adriana was still very kind and romantic. She was just unlucky to get into a bad situation and pay with her own years of life for someone else's sins. When Adriana was 21 years old and she had just got a job in a good private clinic as a nurse, a young and promising surgeon who worked in the same medical center began to show interest in her. Erakli, that was the name of this young guy, was tall, good-looking, and very charming. He had recently turned 26, and he was considered a real star of the clinic at that time. Of course, the young nurse was flattered by the attention of such a spectacular young man, as Erakli was, and a very stormy romance quickly began between them. Before Adriana knew it, they had gone from carefree conversations over coffee in the residence room to long and beautiful dates under the full moon. Then life seemed truly magical and filled with that special magic and beauty that people see only when they are in love and experiencing the joy of reciprocal feelings. Erakli did have romantic feelings for the girl at first. At some point he even decided to tell her parents about it and was determined to marry Adriana. But then, everything suddenly went wrong. The guy became addicted to gambling, especially cards, and began to lose larger and larger sums of money. Of course, the bride, seeing all this, and the prospect to which her lover was inevitably approaching, tried to somehow talk to him to reason, but all was in vain. Erakli, you should finally understand. Adriana tried to inspire the guy when he once again was going to go with friends to the underground parties, where it was supposed to be a big card tournament with the best players from all over the state. Those cards won't do you any good. I mean, look how many people's lives are literally ruined by this stuff. And you, by the way, are a surgeon. You need to always stay with a sober head and a cold heart. You are saving people's lives, and there will probably be booze, and maybe something even worse. The guy smiled indulgently in response, hugging his beloved by the shoulders. You always dramatize everything. What, maimed lives? What kind of nonsense are you talking about? This is a normal professional poker tournament, the same as a normal sport, you know? Like chess. There's a regional swimming competition, a regional running competition. I don't know, so here it's a regional card game tournament. And then it's fair. If I can hold out and beat everybody, I win so much money. You always wanted the most beautiful wedding, remember? Erakli jabbed into the girl's hair and kissed her tenderly. Yes, but... Adriana tried to object. But here, the groom interrupted her. You and I will play such a wedding. Such a holiday will be organized on their own means that even my parents will remember later. How it is, they refused to help their son, who was a loser, and he instead of it, the best day in their lives, managed to organize. They refused to help their son because he spends all his earnings on whiskey and poker. Adriana grumbled, trying to get out from under her fiancé's arm. I don't approve of it anyway, Erakli. They must be professional cheats, and you're going in there as if nothing had happened, like a rabbit to a boa constrictor. A shadow of impatience and irritation ran across her lover's face. He was clearly unpleasant to this conversation, and therefore the young man tried to end it as quickly as possible. Everyone closed the subject. It's annoying, for God's sake. He threw his friend over his shoulder, at the same time throwing on an expensive Italian jacket made of fine leather. Erakli was a well-to-do guy and could afford to buy such things. You're itching like my grandmother, honestly. She also tried to raise me to be a proper boy, but I'm a grown man and I won't let women push me around, understand? I'm going to the poker game. I'll be late. Go to bed without me. Having said so, Erakli picked up his gloves and a small leather bag and then disappeared through the doorway, leaving Adriana all alone in the empty apartment. They then decided to try to live together before the wedding, and rented with their own money a small apartment, which at that time had almost no belongings. The girl, not thinking long, went that evening to her home, where she was waiting for her loving father and mother, to whom she could tell absolutely everything. How could it be, my daughter? Nancy was surprised at her daughter's story. He's an addict, isn't he? How are you going to live with him when he's already losing all his money? He's gonna screw you over too. But I loved him very much, Mom. Objected to this daughter. Besides, Irakli says that cards are also a kind of sport. So I've come to consult him. What should I do now? He says that he wants to earn money for our wedding, but I still have doubts. When he talks about his poker, his eyes light up weirdly. He's obsessed with cards. You're Irakli. That's why his eyes light up, said Benjamin Vitalievich, driving out to his daughter from the next room in his wheelchair. Exactly like Pushkin's, remember? 3-7 ace. The man made deliberately scary eyes and laughed good-naturedly. He loved his daughter very much. Don't mention the Queen of Spades in vain, Benjamin, please, Adriana's mother begged. The girl came to us for advice, and you're always joking. No, where am I? I've already made up my mind. Father said guiltily, pointing at his immobile legs. I just want to say something, Adriana. You don't need a fiancé who, except for his poker, can't see anything further than his own nose. He's a surgeon, cutting people up. Daddy, Adriana exclaimed reproachfully. Well, what did I say? You did. He calmly objected, raising his hand. After all, the lives of other people depend on his hands. And what will he do if all his thoughts instead of surgery will become twists and turns and card combinations? What will he cure? To this, their daughter had nothing to say. She only sighed sadly. That's what I'm telling him, Dad. To do such a job every day, to take such responsibility, and in the evening to go to these underground competitions. His hands are already starting to shake during surgery. A nurse told me she assisted him the other day. She said, do you have any idea what that might be about? I mean, you guys are kind of like bride and groom now. Well, what did you say? The mother asked worriedly. What would I say? If the hospital finds out that he is a gambler, he will be fired immediately. No one will understand whether it's a sport or not. I realize that myself. If you understand it, tell your senior before it's too late. Benjamin's advice. This is not a joke, Miranda. This is getting very serious. Adriana could not answer her father that she could never betray Irakli. After all, they were only going to be married in 6 months. How could she destroy their future happiness with her own hands? But happiness? Considering what their daily routine was beginning to turn into, where Adriana just waited for her fiancé to come home late, while he got drunk and lost all their already small money in cards. In the end, just as the nurse's father had said, things did indeed end badly. Except not for Irakli, but for Adriana. It so happened that the girl's fiancé made a lot of card debts, and to pay them off, he began to slowly pull up special drugs from the group to be accounted for. Selling potent drugs to fans of a quick high, the young man received money for them, some of which went to pay debts, and part of which went to new bets. Naturally, it was not possible to keep such a disappearance secret for a long time. And in a couple of weeks, the cash register was questioned by the director of the clinic. Adriana was on shift every time when the next batch of medicines disappeared, and she alone had the key to the box with them. The girl didn't even suspect that Iraklius, talking to her, stealing the key from her, and taking another package for himself. It seemed that he deliberately framed the girl, but was able to justify his behavior, allegedly caring about their future together. I can't believe this. You took the keys to the box from me without my knowledge. Adriana was indignant. You call that trust? Irakli, how could you? Calm down. Irakli grabbed the girl's hands and immediately licked his lips, dry from excitement. The surgeon's eyes ran back and forth. He tried not to look at his beloved. Noticing how pale the young man's skin was, Adriana couldn't help but ask, "Heraclius, have you been taking something? You are so pale, and your behavior is strange. Shut up!" He bellowed at her, but immediately began to apologize. I'm sorry, dear Adriana. Just hear me out now, okay? I did everything just so that we could have our own money, and for the wedding, and in general, so that we wouldn't depend on our parents for anything. But stealing expensive drugs, even illegal ones, is not the way." Adriana could barely keep herself from screaming in fear. "Do you have any idea what they'll do to you when they find out? Not only will you lose your job, but you'll go to jail." With difficulty, the nurse finished. At that moment, on the lips of her fiancé, a wicked smile played on his lips. Heraclius could hardly keep the focus of his attention on Adriana. The girl realized that her lover was under the influence of some intoxicating substance. "What have you done?" she said slowly. "Adriana, listen to me." The groom began confusedly. "You must now go to the director of the clinic and confess to him that it was you who took those drugs. Do you understand?" "What? Are you out of your mind?" Adriana's eyes instantly widened in horror. "Do you realize what you're offering me right now?" The surgeon nodded confidently in response. "Adriana, understand. It's the best thing to do, the best thing for everyone." "For whom for everyone?" "For you." Almost crying, his fiancée asked him, "Don't you understand, silly? I can't go to prison." Belittling, looked at her ironically. "I have parents with a reputation, a career after all. I care about our future." "You're lying. You care about yourself, Heraclius, and no one else." Swallowing tears, Adriana said, "I can't believe that I could trust you so much." In response, the surgeon hugged the girl, despite her attempts to pull away, and held his bride tightly to himself. "I love you, Adriana. I'll wait until you get out of jail. I won't go anywhere. And then we'll get married right away." "How's that for a plan? You're just a nurse. What are they going to do to you? My future will be ruined, and then I won't be able to provide for us. You'll serve another year, and then you'll get a job as a nurse. You won't have to work at all for a few years. I'll marry you, and you'll give birth to children at once. We'll bring them up, and no one will ever know about it." Adriana began to have doubts. Maybe she really should have taken all the blame? If Heraclius was right, she would lose much less than he did. But when the girl is released, a married, quiet life immediately awaits her. "What about your poker? What about your damn cards, because of which you're setting me up like this?" Adriana looked resolutely into Heraclius' eyes, expecting to hear the truth. The young man slowly pulled away from Adriana and said deliberately without looking her in the eyes, "Poker? What about poker?" "I'll give it up. I've already given it up. There will be no more cards, and I will not come close to them. I just about paid off the bosses who sponsored me in the tournament. To hell with that. Just confess everything for God's sake." Surgeon suddenly for the girl fell to his knees in front of her, and almost crying, began to assure her of his endless love for her. "I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you." Practically sobbing surgeon, hugging the bride's knees. "As you go out, so we'll sign, I swear to you, whatever you want." In the end, he still managed to persuade the gullible girl to take the crime on himself, promising her a wedding and a wonderful new life in another city. Adriana, exhausted by the variety of feelings, out of naivety, and because she still loved her foolish fiancé, still agreed. To Miranda's amazement, the court sentenced her to 5 years for stealing and distributing illegal drugs. Heraclius, who was present at the trial, silently thanked Adriana with one eye. At the same time, Nancy and her husband nearly had a heart attack. The mother sobbed, blaming the groom, and lamented about the future of her innocently ruined daughter. Adriana's father, however, did not utter a single word during the entire trial, beyond what was required of him as a witness. He steadfastly endured his daughter's arrest, and only then, a month later, when Adriana was already in the colony, her mother wrote her that Benjamin was very seriously ill. His condition worsened due to the stress suffered during the investigation of the girl. So now the doctors are not going to make any prognosis about him. Everything will depend on you. The doctor spread his hands. If you can get expensive Swiss drugs for the father, then there is still a chance that he can be returned to the previous level of health. If not, alas, we have done all we can. It was worth giving Heraclius credit. During the whole time Adriana was serving his sentence, the young man wrote her several big touching letters instead of him, and even came to visit her 3 times. However, when released, the girl faced the first unpleasant behavior of her fiancé. He did not meet her from the colony. Adriana strictly forbade her parents to meet her, saying that I would take a cab myself. The girl did not want her father and mother to see the state in which she was leaving the prison, and how the heavy iron gates with barbed wire closed behind her. But she still hoped for Heracles' help, and there was nothing. Strange, Adriana thought, and hurriedly dialed the number of her beloved on her cell phone. It had been returned to her with her things, and Nancy had carefully put a couple of dollars into the phone's account so that her daughter could call when she was free and warn them that she was on her way home. However, only long beeps were heard in the receiver. After a few minutes of unsuccessful calls, the girl waved goodbye and ordered a cab and went straight home. She thought that Heracles must be busy, is on surgery, or solving some important issues at a meeting at the clinic. The young man confessed that as soon as he finally stopped playing cards, his life began to rapidly return to its former successful course. So she only had to leave the walls of the prison, as they would be together again. Trusting her fiancé, the girl decided not to bother him for a while. Especially, he would probably have her number highlighted, and he himself would call her back as soon as he was free. Thinking about the latter, Adriana smiled involuntarily, but the smile was bitter and faded. Freedom. He was free all this time, but I wasn't. I could have answered sooner. With a slight resentment, thought the girl, then switched to thoughts of her own family. At home she was welcomed warmly and lovingly. Her mother baked hot puffed pies with cheese and herbs. Adriana had loved them since childhood. Her father lay in his room and was practically unresponsive. Speaking of it, Nancy involuntarily brushed away a tear. He was like that almost as soon as you were taken away. Wiping her eyes with a handkerchief, the woman said, "The doctors say his stroke has had complications, complete paralysis of the body. He can still be restored to his former state, but the drugs they prescribed for him are very expensive. They have to be ordered from Switzerland." Adriana carefully put her palm on her father's dry hand. "Nothing, Mammy. We'll manage somehow," her daughter promised her. "A very good man helped me here in the colony. They took me to work in a cafe, but only as a cleaner, but everything is better than nothing." Nancy, sobbing with happiness that her daughter was home at last, put her head on her shoulder. "I don't care what you do. The main thing is that you came home safe and sound. God, I wouldn't wish that on an enemy. Although your Heracles is a real scoundrel. You don't have to explain anything to me. Do you think your father, and I didn't realize who really stole those drugs? Your Heraclius was still smiling in the courtroom as if he had to." "Damn him to hell, Mom," Adriana said reproachfully. "It was so necessary then. Now he's waiting for me, I'm sure." The mother looked in amazement into her daughter's green eyes. "What?" Nancy couldn't believe her ears. "And you mean to tell me that after everything he's done to you, you still believe him?" The girl lowered her eyes in a flash. It was hard for her to explain to her mother how strong her feelings for the surgeon were. "Words can't explain it, Mom," Adriana said quietly at last. "We're connected, you know? Probably for life." Nancy looked at her daughter in silence and then cautiously said, "Daughter, I've been a librarian for 30 years, and I can tell you with certainty that no work in which the protagonist thought the same way as you never ended with a happy ending." Adriana smiled instead of answering. "I'll get settled in the city, get a job, and I'll try to get a loan for my father's treatment. Maybe if I'm approved, we'll be able to get my father back to normal. You just do not worry, Mommy. Everything will work out for sure." Adriana changed the unpleasant subject. And now she was walking along the Spring Avenue, heading towards the big, beautiful building of the Invest Bank, where she wanted to try her luck with the loan money. A little over a month had passed since her return. During this time, she had managed to get a job as a cleaner in the cafe where the head of the colony had sent her, and even to prove herself on the good side. The girl had performed her duties with diligence, for which the director, a broad-shouldered man of Oriental appearance, named Mason, had given her a small bonus. The only thing that constantly depressed the girl was the lack of feedback from her fiancé. Ironically, though he picked up the phone afterwards, he was not eager to see his liberated bride. The young man constantly referred to his busy schedule and the large number of patients he had to deal with all the time. Adriana, though she sensed the unkindness in his voice, continued to convince herself that all her thoughts about Irakli's dishonesty were just speculation and shards of the paranoia that had developed in her, to some extent, during her time in prison. The girl entered the spacious premises of the bank, having clarified from the guard where she had to queue up to apply for a loan. Adriana waited patiently. After standing in a long queue and giving the bank employee all the necessary documents for consideration, Adriana remained standing at the office, again waiting for the decision of her question. After a few minutes, the bank employee came out and quietly asked Adriana to follow her straight to the director's office. There Adriana saw a large, balding man holding a folder with the papers she needed to apply for a loan. "Here, Robert," annoyingly said the girl, a bank employee, nervously adjusting her bright yellow, uniform silk scarf. "I brought her in as you asked. Can I go now?" Adriana thought she heard genuine fear in the girl's voice. "Go, Lara." With a nod, the headmaster gave permission. "And remember for the future, this kind of clients should either come straight to me, or if things are really bad, straight to the police." Lara lowered her head and slowly backed out of the office, giving Adriana a sympathetic look. At the same second, Adriana realized that nothing good was waiting for her in this bank. "Well, young lady, what is your business here?" With irony in his voice, the director began. He seemed to mock the girl, and she perfectly understood this information from his tone. "I would like to take a loan for personal purposes." As confidently and calmly as possible, Adriana answered the banker. The man, in his turn, folded his fingers on the table and raised his eyebrows and scrutinized the girl's figure. "I'm sorry, did I say something wrong?" Miranda said impatiently. Though she needed money, she did not intend to endure another humiliation from someone who reveled in his small portion of power. The banker only clicked his tongue instead of answering. "She wants a loan. How daring the ex-convicts are nowadays. Why are you talking to me like that?" Adriana wondered. "Because I want to, and because that's the only way to talk to you." The headmaster answered her unhesitatingly. When did you quit? A month ago? I saw your early release certificate. Do you really think that our bank will give you a loan with open arms, and for such a large amount of money? Adriana felt her cheeks blush and her eyes moisten with tears of indignation. But I brought all the necessary documents. My father is very sick, understand? He won't survive if he doesn't get these medicines. My dad, he's an advanced production worker, got injured at the factory, tightened the machine. He's been in a wheelchair ever since. Not so long ago he had a relapse, and he completely lost the ability to move, and if not for me, no one will help him. Please, please, but Robert was as relentless as a rock in the middle of an icy sea. You tell beautiful tales, girl, but I've told enough of them in this life. They come, take out loans, and then have nothing to pay back. God only knows what you spend your money on. But I don't intend to cause any more losses to my bank. No, please, we've been there, we know. But I'll pay you back honestly. Adriana insisted with all her might. You can see, I have a certificate of employment, everything according to the law. Of course you do. Cleaning lady? What else could a criminal who'd been out of prison a few weeks? I'd be surprised, Miranda, if you suddenly found yourself a top manager, for example. That would be extremely, by the way, positive for your ability to pay. Adriana wiped her tear-wet cheeks and lowered her eyes. She had already realized that she had been summoned here solely for the amusement of the headmaster, and no amount of pleading would soften the heart of this miser. Go, and you'd better not come back here ever again. Unless you want to go back to jail next time. The businessman warned the girl, after which the former prisoner left his office crying. Walking back into the hall, immersed in her own unhappy thoughts, Adriana suddenly heard behind her back a woman's screams, first quietly and then louder and louder. After all, she couldn't pass by without finding out what was going on. Her voice at that moment sounded unusual, firm, and confident, and she herself could not explain how she managed to overcome her own inner barriers and shyness. She knew only one thing: she had to save this man without fail. There was the sound of keys. Someone was calling for an ambulance. Adriana, meanwhile, threw off her old coat from her shoulders and put it under the man's head. After that, the girl began to give the old man indirect heart massage, not forgetting to count to 30, pressing on his chest every time she said the next count. Interspersing her actions with artificial respiration, Adriana was able to achieve that the patient first issued a squeezed, almost indistinguishable sigh, and then his chest began to rise and fall much more confidently. The man coughed loudly, and at that moment, near the bank building, the sirens of an ambulance sounded. Thank God! Adriana exhaled, running her hand through her loose hair. We made it. A few minutes later, the medical professionals were on the scene. When the elderly stranger had already been loaded onto a stretcher and transported to the ambulance, Adriana was suddenly approached by one of the doctors. A young guy about her age sincerely praised the girl and thanked her for the highly qualified help rendered to the old man. You did well, he said cheerfully. If it were not for the way you pumped him out, the old man would be already in the other world. The medic looked up expressively. Now he's in a coma, but we'll connect him to a ventilator, pump what you need, and I'm sure he'll come to his senses quickly. Thank God, he's a sturdy pensioner. Adriana looked down in embarrassment. She realized that she hadn't done anything special, she was just doing her job. After all, medicine had always been her calling, and she had been happy to help people when she worked at the local clinic. You should be proud of yourselves, the young medic encouraged the girl. By your actions, saved a man's life. That's worth a lot nowadays. Adriana smiled and mentally wished the elderly man all the best and a speedy recovery and left the bank. Upon returning home, the young nurse immediately realized that something was wrong. Nancy sat silently on the bed, and there was not a speck of blood in her face. Father was not in the room either. "Mother, what has happened?" Rushed to the woman the girl. "Where is Daddy? Why are you so pale?" Instead of answering, the woman let out a wistful sob. "Daddy was taken to the hospital this afternoon while you went to the bank," she explained. "They said his health was very bad. God, what are we going to do now?" Without hiding her emotions, Nancy burst into tears. Adriana felt immensely guilty about what had happened to her father and the fact that she could not get money for his treatment. "Daughter." Sobbing between fits of sobs, Nancy asked her daughter, "Adriana, have you been approved for a loan?" There was such an overwhelming plea in her mother's eyes that Adriana couldn't lie to her. "No, they said their bank doesn't give money to ex-convicts. Nu Christi." Nancy replied, then hugged her daughter affectionately. "It's okay, we'll be fine." She tried to reassure herself and Adriana. "We've gotten out of worse than this, haven't we, honey?" "Of course we have." The girl nodded in response, and then it suddenly hit her. "Mom, I'm going to Iraqli. Are you crazy?" Her mother complained once again. "Why do you need him, Adriana?" "That bastard even stopped answering your phone calls. He just couldn't be bothered with me." The nurse dismissed it. "His parents have a lot of money. They'll help us, I'm sure. I'll go straight to him and tell him everything. He'll understand." Nancy only shook her head sadly. Daughter, life teaches you nothing." Adriana, with a decisive step, headed towards Irakli's house. She was sure that the young surgeon would help her and her family. After all, he had promised to marry her as soon as she was released. Nevertheless, for the last few days he really did not pick up the phone at all, and it involuntarily led Miranda to agonizing thoughts about their relationship. Yes, she and Irakli were indeed, as they called it, from different worlds. The surgeon's parents were wealthy businessmen involved in timber sales to the north. Rumor had it that they had several dozen $1 million in their accounts. Adriana's parents, on the other hand, could never boast of anything like that. Her mother, Nancy, worked all her life as a librarian in the city's central church, and her father, Benjamin, spent most of his working years in the pulp mill, where he had a really fatal accident that left the man disabled for life. Now truly cosmic money was needed to treat his father. Irakli remained her last, almost ghostly hope. Did the difference in their social status with Irakli interfere with her feelings? Adriana thought not. At least she had once thought so. And now, was her fiancé so busy that he couldn't even find a couple hours in his tight schedule to meet her at the colony gate? The girl was tired of the endless questions and wanted only one thing right now, to find out the truth. On the way to her fiancé's house, Adriana involuntarily recalled the moment when she had first met Irakli's parents. He had invited her to their country house for a festive dinner. Vanessa, his mother, had prepared in advance for the guests' arrival, ordering the best dishes from her favorite restaurant. She herself did not like cooking and did not know how to cook. Christopher, Adriana's father, was looking forward to seeing the bride of his only son, and therefore even helped his wife to set the table. Unfortunately, the girl did not live up to their hopes. Seeing on the doorstep of a pretty shade, in a simple chintz dress and a flower, and in cheap shoes, Vanessa was in mute amazement. This was not the kind of choice she had expected her son to make. "Miranda?" In a patronizing tone, she asked, clarifying if this shepherdess was indeed her Irakli's girlfriend. "Are you really Miranda, my son's friend?" "Yes. Miranda answered embarrassed and immediately lowered her gaze. But to be honest, she was a little afraid of the tall, statuesque woman who was her fiancé's mother. "Good afternoon. Nice to meet you." Miranda couldn't find anything else to say to such a dazzling lady. Vanessa, in whose ears and on whose fingers sparkled large earrings and diamond rings, only with a superior gesture invited her inside. At the same moment, Irakli himself appeared from the depths of the house. He, too, was clearly embarrassed by his mother's behavior, so he tried to make a joke to somehow diffuse the situation. However, it did not save the evening. During the whole dinner, the woman did not utter 2 words, only studied the other half of her son with a contemptuous look. Apparently, the same opinion was held by his father, because when Irakli escorted Miranda and personally put her in a cab, the guy was immediately criticized by his parents. "Who the hell is Miranda?" "Ha, son," Vanessa wailed. "Couldn't you find someone better? She's as poor as a church mouse. We don't need a daughter-in-law like that. My God, she's even got leatherette shoes. I'm sorry, son, but I agree with my mother." Christopher stepped in. "We have a house, if I may say so, noble, and we do not intend to let any poor here. Have fun, but don't let her count on more than that. She has chosen the wrong young man, a beggarly adventuress. Oh, the wrong one." Irakli, in whose head, which even then, began to creep thoughts of regular poker games, drinking and the like, just waved away. "Say, calm down, parents. We are not like that. Not serious in general." However, Adriana, he told exactly the opposite, until the passion for gambling finally absorbed him, and Irakli did not slip to shameful for a surgeon stealing, as well as framing his own favorite girl. Adriana tried to put all the bad memories out of her mind, but when she came to the house where Irakli's parents lived with their son, she couldn't believe her own eyes. Next to the elite high-rise apartment building was a wedding cottage. A white limousine literally shone from rubbed to a shine tanks and waited for the main culprits of the celebration to sit in it. The guests near the entrance were dressed very elegantly and very expensive. However, most of them, the girl recognized perfectly well. They were her colleagues at the private clinic, where she once worked together with her fiancé. In the next second, the ground literally went out from under Adriana's feet. The nurse had to grab onto the stone wall of the house to keep from falling. From the entrance, dressed in a luxurious black tuxedo, Irakli slowly came out, but not alone, but with a charming bride, whose wedding dress Adriana herself could only envy. The surgeon's bride was Camille, the daughter of the director of a private clinic who came there once a year in order to ask her father for as much money as possible. Camille was a famous socialite in the city, and few people would have thought that she would have been willing to pay attention to a man like Irakli. Yes, his parents were fabulously wealthy, but still, young Irakli did not fit into the tastes of the ever-cheerful and sparkling inner energy Camille. And yet, there you are. Adriana had never expected such a betrayal from her boyfriend. Anything but not a rich beauty who could be married only because of money and position in society. Well, a shrewd move by Iraklius. Adriana said gloomily under her breath, "Now you will never have to think about the future again. Love and advice." In tears, Adriana hurried away from the house, away from her hated fiancé and his rich parents. Behind her, she could hear the cheers of the guests and the laughter of Camille. It was good that at least someone was really happy that day. The nurse thought to herself as she walked farther and farther away, unable to hold back the tears of resentment and betrayal that flowed down her cheeks. Passers-by looked at her with sincere surprise and incomprehension. How could this pretty girl go crying on such a beautiful sunny day? What is in her heart? Did she need any help? But Adriana tried not to look around. She kept her gaze fixed on her feet and kept walking forward and forward, completely unaware of where and why she was going. But most importantly, how could she save her father when the last and faintest hope was lost to her forever? Being in upset feelings, Adriana did not immediately pay attention to a large black business class car stopped just a few meters away from her. A foreign car of the latest model, it attracted the gazes of passers-by. After all, not every day they could see on the gray roads of their city such a miracle of automobile construction. Out of the car came out an athletic-looking, trim, broad-shouldered man, about 35 years old. With an easy gait, the stranger approached Adriana, waving his hand in a friendly manner. In an effort to attract the girl's attention, the young driver of the foreign car smiled broadly, revealing 2 rows of impeccably straight and snow-white teeth. "Hello," he greeted her cheerfully. "Why, is she so beautiful and crying?" Adriana looked at the tall, handsome man in total confusion. She did not understand what he wanted from her. "Hello," she said slowly. "I'm not crying at all, just a speck in my eye." Adriana didn't want to go into details about her condition in front of a stranger. "Who are you?" The man happily extended his broad palm to her. "My name is John. I work as a security guard for a very respectable man whom you saved the other day. He came out of his coma today, and the first thing he asked me to do was to find you and bring you to him. He wants to see you, Miranda. Right, that's your name, isn't it?" "Adriana," the nurse corrected him. "But I still don't understand what this is about. I haven't helped anyone but—" Suddenly the girl stopped. She understood, and from her face the guard guessed that the nurse had finally realized who she had saved in the bank from a heart attack. Confusedly wiping away her tears, Adriana looked into John's face. From him came only kindness and desire to thank the girl for saving his boss. As a result, the nurse agreed to go with the guard, and in half an hour, she was taken to an elite private clinic, much larger and better than the one where Adriana herself used to work. "Wow," the girl marveled sincerely. As she and John walked through the lobby to his boss's luxurious private room. "Impressive?" Winking at her, John said cheerfully, "Christopher always stays only in suites like this when he has health problems." "Christopher?" Adriana asked. So that was the name of this mysterious elderly man. John, meanwhile, was humming softly to himself. When they stopped next to the right room, the man said in a practiced official tone, "Christopher Parker, head of the Finance Consulting Corporation, is expecting you." Adriana smiled involuntarily and then ventured into the room. There on a high soft bed sat the same elderly pensioner whom she a couple of days ago performed artificial respiration and cardiac massage. "Good afternoon." Adriana greeted him politely. "I'm glad to see that you are feeling much better. Good day to you too." The man smiled. "But by your efforts, as they say, did you recognize me, sweetheart?" With a slight smile, he asked the girl. Adriana nodded. Yes, she did. Only you were dressed differently that day, a little less stylish. She found the appropriate word looking at the elderly businessman's immaculate silk pajamas. Parker gave a short laugh in response. "Well, yes, there is such a thing. In fact, I was at work that day." "Work? I don't get it, Adriana. How's that? You were dressed like a beggar?" "Yeah, that's the point. A working scheme, you know." The man smiled with one eye. "I wanted to inspect my new subordinates, the employees of the bank I bought a couple of months ago," explained the businessman. there was no time to pay an official visit to this place. So I was advised by a friend, also a businessman, to dress up as a poor man and see how you will be treated in that bank. This is a proven option, recognized throughout the business world, and it is in relation to the outcasts of society that the CEO can make the most accurate assessment of whether the company adheres to the chosen strategy of humanity and equality for all or not. "Excuse me, Christopher." In a voice full of sadness, Adriana said, "But most likely, the investment bank belongs to the second category." "I already guessed that," with a serious look answered Parker. "About the current director, we already have many questions. You can be sure he has already served his place in the soft chair." Adriana cautiously raised her eyes to the businessman. Does he know about her past? And about what she had to endure outside the walls of the colony? Parker continued his story as if he hadn't noticed anything. "While I was there demonstratively twisting and standing in line, unsuccessfully waiting to be noticed, I suddenly felt sick. I felt dizzy, and then my heart gave out. Right here." The businessman pointed to his chest. "But the employees of this investment company didn't give a damn about me. Can you imagine? I heard by ear, when I was already sliding down the wall, how their guard just laughed at me, saying that some vagrant had too much alcohol, so he laid down at our place, as if in a hotel room. My clothes really embarrassed those employees, but on the other hand, they had never seen me in person, so they had nothing bad on their minds. So Adriana, simple human indifference turns out." The man shook his head sadly, and then finished the story. "And you were the only one who was not shy and not afraid to give me first aid, saved me, you might say, from the stupidest death." Adriana saw a tiny tear roll down from one corner of Christopher's eye. "Then the ambulance brought me to the intensive care unit, but I don't remember it, because I was in a coma. John told me that later. He said that the doctors were surprised when after I came to my senses, the first thing I did was to throw off my gray wig, and they almost fainted." Christopher laughed, and Adriana, who did not care to laugh at all, only pretended to smile. She herself at the same time, taking advantage of the moment, imperceptibly wiped a tear from her face. "Yeah," the girl shook her head. "You scared everyone so much, Christopher." Now in front of the former prison nurse sat not an old man of retirement age, and Christopher in appearance was no more than 55, and no gray hair, of course, he was not in the past. On the contrary, he had a beautiful silky hair, light blonde color, and despite all his wrinkles, remained in a fairly fit for his age. In general, the businessman gave the impression of an extremely pleasant man, albeit with a not quite ordinary sense of humor. Adriana still could not get out of her head the deed of her former fiancé. In fact, he had embarrassed her in front of the whole town, because everyone knew that he and Miranda were to be married as soon as she was released. Now the girl could no longer not only get a job in her professional profile, but in general she was ashamed to even show her face to her former colleagues and friends. What will they say about her now, if they don't say it out loud already? For everyone, Adriana became something like an unwilling scapegoat who obediently accepted all the small and not so small sins of her immoral master, which for the girl was Herakle. Her love for him was too strong and obsessive, so much so that Adriana could not see his true attitude to her in time. And when she realized it, it was too late, and nothing could be changed. Christopher, noticing how deep Adriana was in her own thoughts, coughed embarrassedly and drew her attention back to him. Adriana stirred like a frightened doe. She hoped she hadn't said any of her involuntary musings aloud. "Forgive me," she apologized. "I'm afraid I'm just too tired from all the events of today, and so I lost the thread of our conversation. Anyway, I'm very glad you're feeling better. You'll be discharged soon, and you can go back to your normal life. You will continue to inspect your banks as a vagabond." Adriana smiled sadly, while the millionaire seemed to understand without words. "Well, that's true, of course it is, but—" The millionaire looked enigmatically at the girl sitting in front of him, and then decided to ask the question that was bothering him. "Adriana, can I ask you one more favor?" "I'll tell you right away that it will be paid generously. Don't even worry about that." Adriana looked suspiciously at her new acquaintance. "It depends on what it's about," the girl answered cautiously. Christopher calmed down a bit and continued. "You see, from time to time in life, we all have terrible and tragic things happen to us, and I, alas, was no exception." The man paused for a moment to gather his wits. "You see, my son needs special qualified help now. I guessed long ago that you didn't just help me that day at the bank. You had a doctor's reflex. I found out your background, but I don't care about that. At the end of the day, it's not what we've been through. It's whether we're still human. You, I see, weren't still or a good person, and only you can help my son to regain his faith in life." Adriana looked at the businessman with astonishment. Finally, she nodded, saying, "You may continue. A year ago, my son and his mother were involved in a terrible car accident. My wife, to my great regret, could not be saved then, but my son was left a wheelchair-bound invalid, but he still has every chance to walk again. However, my boy has fallen into a deep depression, blames himself for the fact that that day he could not cope with the control, because of which the car was carried out on the oncoming traffic. I'm sorry." Adriana responded sympathetically, "Thank you." The millionaire nodded. "I only want you, Miranda, to help my son to learn physical therapy again. And at the same time, I want you to supervise his medication. The thing is, Ethan seems to be angry at everyone and everything, not following doctor's orders, finally giving up on himself. I understand that he's just punishing himself for what happened, but I want my son, I mean my real Ethan, not a pale shadow of him. Well, that's my offer, okay?" Adriana took her time answering, deciding to ponder Parker's proposal first. On the one hand, of course, she was a little afraid to go to the house of a stranger and take responsibility for the fate of the banker's son. But on the other hand, now her family needed money for her father's treatment more than ever, and helping people is still her main calling, which for several years spent in prison, Adriana had already managed to miss a lot. The nurse was not completely sure if she could get Ethan back on his feet, but it was definitely worth a try, especially since Christopher had promised her complete protection from the outside world and confidentiality. In other words, he'd promised that no one she knew, and especially not Irakli, would know where she was or why she was there. Good. Adriana finally agreed. "Just give me one night, please. I need to warn my mother and pack some of my things." The businessman gladly agreed and thanked the girl for such a noble deed. That same evening, Adriana told her mother about everything and promised her that in a couple of weeks she would be able to transfer the first amount of money to her card, on which she would be able to buy at least a few vital injections for their father. The mother just burst into tears of happiness and kissed her daughter on both cheeks. "Blessings, Adriana, on your good journey." The woman stayed at home, while Miranda got into Christopher's big black foreign car, and with his invariable security guard driver John, went to the millionaire's house. Ethan's acquaintance with Adriana did not go well from the start. Arriving at the luxurious Parker mansion, the girl was first of all taken to get acquainted with her future patient. However, the son Christopher flatly refused to accept the guest in his room. Not only that, The very idea of therapeutic exercise and physiotherapy, the guy took, as they say, in a flip. "Who did you bring to me, Dad?" Ethan asked in a frustrated tone. "Why did she come here in the first place? Didn't you realize that I don't want to hear any more about my recovery? It's impossible, you know. I'm my own boss, and I decide whether I live or rot like a plant, and I deserve only the latter." A grim-looking guy, a little older than Adriana, was sitting in a wheelchair, swearing like a 12-year-old boy. Adriana was surprised to see his messy hair and an old t-shirt with the logo of some sci-fi movie on it. For all his unwillingness to live, couldn't he at least wash himself? What kind of weird form of protest is this? Miranda thought as she unpacked her belongings in her assigned room of the mansion. The irony was that in the room next to hers lived the millionaire's son, whose dialogue with his father she had just overheard. She was not eavesdropping on purpose, but this Ethan was so loud that his cries literally shook the whole floor. "Son, calm down, please." His father tried to calm the boy down. "You at least try to get in touch with her. She is a nurse from God. She saved my life, you know, son. Maybe she can help you get out of that damn chair." But Ethan had no intention of solving the problem peacefully. "She's gonna help me? Me? Dad, are you serious? Or are you still jerking me around? Yeah, she won't even be able to pick me up if I collapse in the middle of the gym." "Then don't fall." Parker shouted at his son. "Hold on, yell, scream, whatever you want to do, but do not fall. Why am I talking to you like a little kid again, huh? Adriana stays here and tries to help you. That's my last word." The girl heard the door close behind Christopher with a loud slam. At that moment, Adriana realized the seriousness of the situation and prepared herself for the hard, monotonous work that seemed to last for a long time. Adriana was not one to give up so easily. The history with Araceli and the colony had only hardened her already combative nature. The next morning, the nurse made a schedule of medications and detailed all the steps of her sessions with Ethan. Of course, the businessman's son flatly refused to comply with the recommendations, and at every opportunity tried to get Adriana out of her mind, provoking her into a new scandal. Here, the girl put a small sheet, printed from the computer on the guy's desk. "You have to follow this daily routine and a system of exercises to ease your spine, the gradual transition back to an upright position." "What?" The guy mumbled back. "I'm not doing anything. You're wasting your time, Adriana." Ethan defiantly opened a magazine and shielded himself from the girl with it. "I'll meet you at the gym today. Class starts in 40 minutes. If you don't show up, you're on your own." Adriana answered him calmly and proudly went back to her room to practice the necessary exercises. Naturally, at the appointed time, no one showed up at Adriana's gym, and the second time, and the third time too. Then the girl decided to take Ethan on the sly, and having studied some medical literature, decided to realize what she had planned. The next morning, Ethan looked out of the window and was literally stunned to see Adriana sitting on a special yoga mat in the middle of a neatly cut and green lawn, practicing various not very complicated asanas. The nurse was dressed more than modestly, no provocatively tight tights or short shirts, only clean, light, and practical clothes, which, nevertheless, did not embarrass her smooth and graceful movements. The former prisoner's stretching skills were always good, so she could easily perform some impressive tricks that would make an ordinary person want to do the same thing after her. What about a handicapped person? "What are you doing here?" asked Ethan, who arrived half an hour later in a wheelchair. "Are you practicing yoga or something?" "Yes," Adriana answered him with a peaceful exhale. Would you like to join me? Sure. Ethan answered cheerfully in the nurse's tone. There's just one little problem. I'm an invalid. Why are you poisoning me? You think I don't know what you're getting at? Do you want me to come to you, to your Dan classes? Adriana smoothly came out of another asana and then answered Ethan in a completely indifferent manner. I don't want anything from you. I just do yoga outdoors because I love my body and my spirit. And if a person loves his body, respects it, and does not sit all day, dirty in a wheelchair, hiding behind far-fetched complexes, then the spirit of such a person will be fine. You ask yourself first, are you normal at all? Your father does everything for you just to get you interested in life again. Not only that, you have the means to lead a full life. And you've got it in your head, like an idiot, that you're handicapped. So you cover yourself with it, spitting on yourself and everyone you care about. The guy's face was contorted with a grimace of pain and anger. How dare you? You don't know anything about me. How can you talk about me? Get out of here. You didn't hire me, Christopher did. Adriana exhaled. It's up to him to fire me. You'd better spend your energy on your exercises instead of wasting it like this. You might be able to do something like what I just did here later. It was Adriana's first small victory over Ethan's stubbornness. The next day, the young man was clearly reluctant and skeptical, but came to the nurse's class. However, contrary to his expectations, the girl did not praise the guy. On the contrary, she did not stop scolding him and somewhere even hurt his male pride, just to awaken his inner motivation. Eventually, it worked. Ethan started taking the medications prescribed by the doctors, following his diet and taking care of himself again, but most importantly, he came to Adriana's classes every day. Ethan took his first independent steps with great difficulty. The untrained, relaxed body simply refused to take the load he was supposed to, and that gave Ethan terrible pains in the back and lower back. How many times he wanted to give up, and was literally ready to burn his nurse with a look, if only she would stop hurting his ego. But the effect of such training, when Ethan was, as they call it, on adrenaline, increased many times over. In a few months he could already move around the house with the help of crutches, and in another 6 months he could walk with a cane. Ethan's happiness, and especially his father's, was unparalleled. My God, Adriana, it's just a miracle. Christopher never ceased to be amazed. Not only has he gotten out of his wheelchair, but he's been much less rude to me. I'm even afraid to ask, what are you doing with him? Miranda just laughed in response. I motivate him, Christopher, and nothing more. The girl said, he needed sporting anger, aggression, but the kind that gives him the strength to live. So I pressed him on some emotional points. Don't talk about it, Ethan, I beg you. Otherwise, I don't know how he'll behave in the future. What are you? Absolutely not. The businessman whispered conspiratorially and then crossed himself several times. Adriana, you really have become our family's guardian angel. I never thought I would say this, but I am truly grateful to the fate that she crushed me in that bank. Otherwise, you and I would never have met. You've got a tongue. Adriana jokingly chided him. The main thing is to live a long life and keep an eye on your condition. If anything, immediately call an ambulance with the heart jokes. Oh, how bad? Yes, I believe it. The millionaire agreed with her. In gratitude to Adriana for her help and good attitude towards his son, Christopher did everything possible to save her sick father. Benjamin was transferred to the best city clinic, where he was given the most modern treatment, to pay for which the businessman personally volunteered. Soon the condition of Adriana's father showed the first improvement. Nancy did not stop rejoicing with her daughter and thank God, but more, of course, the banker Parker, without whose help Benjamin would have been waiting for disconnection from all life support systems. All the while the girl lived in the house of a millionaire. She received from him a generous salary, most of which Adriana invariably sent to her mother. A joyful event in the life of Nancy was the purchase of a new one-bedroom apartment in which she was going to move with her husband when he finally recovered and can again move in a wheelchair. And so it happened. A couple of years later, Benjamin's physical condition not only returned to its former level, but also significantly improved, allowing the man to really enjoy every day that passed. Now they live in a nice new home and enjoy what they have with each other, not getting tired of thanking his favorite daughter every day. And Adriana's personal life has also improved, and in the most unexpected way. The thing is, she started dating Ethan. When Christopher found out about the affair between the nurse and his son, he was very surprised. You couldn't stand her, remember? His father asked his son with a sly squint. And now then, in the brides of her, write her down. I'm not just writing her down, I'm marrying her, Dad. The boy laughed back. I really fell in love with Adriana from the first day I met her. But I didn't realize it at the time. But when I saw her in that gray sweatshirt and wide pants, doing yoga, that's when it really hit me. My father only jokingly wagged his finger in response. He had long ago realized that Miranda, his son, was no better match for him. Adriana herself had been hiding her feelings for Ethan for a long time, even from herself, but eventually, after the boy had gotten back on his feet, there was no need to play the feud anymore, and they began to be friends openly, and then moved to a more romantic level of their relationship. For the first time in her life, Adriana was 100% sure that Ethan, who blew the dust off her and made her incredibly happy, would never betray her for anything in the world. Her parents agreed with this opinion. So when the Young announced to them about their imminent wedding, Nancy and her husband only rejoiced for their daughter. Here, they said, Adriana finally met a worthy man. The girl herself retrained as a teacher of physical therapy and began to lead groups of therapeutic gymnastics and physical training, where she helped people recover from serious injuries and maintain their health even in the presence of chronic diseases. Ethan was incredibly proud of his young wife. More soulful and understanding subtle person he never dreamed of seeing next to him. 2 years later, Adriana gave birth to 2 adorable twin girls named Emily and Cindy. Needless to say, how happy their father was when he learned that he had 2 beautiful daughters. Ethan, by this time, had already established himself in the financial market as a successful young businessman worthy to continue his father's business. Christopher gave in his management, the very investment bank which began their acquaintance with Adriana, and the young banker began to manage it quite well. One day, when Adriana arrived at her husband's office, accompanied by a baby carriage, Ethan quietly led her into his office and silently pointed to the CCTV cameras installed in the HR department. "Do you recognize it?" he asked, looking at his wife. Adriana didn't understand what he meant at first, but after a closer look, she felt a chill run down her spine. Her ex-fiancé, Irakli, was sitting in the personnel department, his head sullenly drooping. It was obvious that the man had given up a lot in recent years. I checked him through my channels. The young businessman told his wife. He's completely drunk, lost everything he had in illegal poker clubs. That's why his wife and kid left him, and his rich parents disowned him. So Irakli was left all alone in this world. There is still justice on this earth. What is he doing here? Slowly asked his wife, Adriana. He came to apply for a job with us. Ethan answered nonchalantly. He wants to try his hand at being a guard. Do you think we should give this man a second chance? Ethan had long known about his wife's past, including Irakli's betrayal, but he had never judged her. On the contrary, he sympathized with her and dreamed of personally punching the bastard in the face. And now Ethan offered his wife to do with this scoundrel whatever she deemed necessary. If you want, I'll go out there right now and beat him up so he won't be in this town for another year, but for you and everything he's done to you. Adriana shook her head negatively. You shouldn't. Look at him. I think life has punished him enough already. Let's not add to his misery, shall we? Get him a job, not as a security guard, but as a janitor. Let him work in the fresh air like I used to. Besides, that way he can't steal anything from the office and then gamble it away. Whatever you say. Ethan nodded, then turned off the camera monitor. I'll try to get off early tonight. Shall we go to a restaurant? I'd love to. Adriana responded, then sent a kiss to her husband and pointed to the stroller. I'll let my mom know we're going out tonight so she can watch the girls. Going outside, Adriana tried to get into the car as inconspicuously as possible, having put the children inside and fastened them securely in the small, brightly colored car seats. She did it just in time. As soon as she slammed the car door shut, Irakli's figure emerged from the bank building. Fortunately, he couldn't see her from behind the tinted windows of the car. Looking at the gaunt, thin figure of the man she had once loved, so much that she had agreed to go to prison for his sake, Adriana felt pity for Irakli. In front of her was a man who had destroyed his own happiness and lost his own opportunities. And all this for a phantom chance to chase and beat fate. For a second, it seemed to Miranda that her ex-fiancé, by some sixth sense, caught her presence in the neatly tinted foreign car. Iraklius looked at Adriana's car for several long moments, literally devouring with his gaze the one who, according to his assumption, could be inside behind the wheel. Had he guessed that Adriana was the one inside? The woman didn't want to know the answer to that question. Instead, the words her father had once spoken rang clearly in her mind. He's possessed. That's why his eyes are burning. 3-7 Ace.
Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell.
No, Lisa, there are no normal men now. Only male dogs left. For our share. Anyway, somehow we missed the moment. And now what? We can only get cats, as decent old maids should, Isabella said gloomily to her friend. First of all, we are not old, and secondly, we are not virgins. Lisa disagreed, and as she knew how to bring some nonsense back into the most serious conversation, she couldn't help herself. I read that old maidens herd goats in the other world. Such is their punishment. Do we need it? Isabella couldn't stand it, she laughed. Well, I hope we will be freed from this burden. We've spent enough time with goats in our lifetime, and we're not virgins, and one of our affairs can be counted for marriage. Both girls were, as they said, a little over 30, and to be exact, under 37. Both were unmarried, but with a good baggage of failed romances, small tragedies, and big disappointments. Now the friends were sitting in a cafe, discussing the collapse of another hope that had befallen Isabella. She wanted to get married, but apparently this desire visited her late, after 25 years, when most of her peers have already married and peers, respectively, married. She had a few novels, and even with a proposal of marriage, but then she somehow thought that it's too early, will have time, and then realized that she does not have time. There are enough suitors, but there are no candidates for husbands, and if there are, it would be better not to have. Closer to 30 years, both happened to get acquainted with all the most disgusting representatives of the male tribe. Alphonse, for example. Isabella had to deal with an Eric, a little younger than her, and of course handsome, aware of his appearance, and eager to use his capital to the fullest, and doing it very technically. Started small. Isabella, be an angel, put 50 cents on my phone, I'm broke. How am I supposed to say goodnight to you? And just like that, little by little, Isabella, I didn't notice how Eric started to treat her finances like his own. Apparently, he thought it would always be like that Isabella was completely at his mercy. And at some point it was. He no longer hinted, asked, demanded, but she loved in everything, understanding, could not give up this dependence, and he, even having found a richer patroness, continued to use Isabella's handouts. Of course, one day everything ended, but according to the principle of the wedge with a wedge, Isabella met Bob. This man was older than her, smart, serious, and reliable. At least that's how it seemed at first. He was much more comfortable than Eric. He knew how to surround a woman with care and attention. But that impression only lasted until he invited Isabella to his home and introduced her to his mother. This probably should have proved the seriousness of his intentions, but only proved that he is an incorrigible mama's boy, and no one can stand such a mama as a mother-in-law. That's why Bob remains a bachelor for almost 40 years. It was necessary to think at the first meeting with the girl of the sun, when not yet made a proposal, not received consent, this is not an old and quite intelligent-looking woman, at a set table began to explain Isabella how to take care of Bob, how to keep the house, wash dishes, cook, starched the laundry. I, Isabella, devoted all of myself to my family, to my husband and son. When I got married, I quit my job. My late husband, Bob's father, was a talented military man. He would have made general if he hadn't died. But he was a child in the domestic sphere, because I took care of the house, and I know all about caring for men, and I'm ready to teach it to my son's future wife. It was like hiring a maid. Apparently she saw Isabella that way, as a future maid and nanny for Bob. Isabella thought it was funny at first, and then she realized that she didn't see her possible mother-in-law as anything else. She didn't even allow Isabella and Bob to be alone in her house. If they were alone in his room, the door had to be open, strangely enough, and the man himself thought it was normal. Mom is bored, and what are we sitting here for? Let's go to the big room and watch TV with Mom. If they went out for a walk together, his mother would call every minute, asking him to go to the pharmacy or to the store for something. And then she would start reproaching her son for taking such a long walk. Today it's wet, and you didn't put on a scarf. Why do you need to go to the movies? You can watch TV at home. You'll come in too late, and you won't get any sleep. This threesome romance could have ended in marriage. Bob even hinted at a life together, but when Isabella said she would only agree to live apart from his mom, he was horrified. What do you mean separate? Are you suggesting I leave my mother alone in an empty apartment? Visit her on weekends? But you think about it, how we will live without her, because she is a treasure trove of worldly wisdom. Imagine how many things you could learn from my mom. No wonder Isabella was in a hurry to end the relationship. Perhaps to the relief of both Bob and especially his mom. One thing that relationship had taught her was to bypass mama's boys by the 10th road. Another category, married men. These, the girl had encountered several times. These just wanted to diversify their family life, a break from the baby squeak, nagging wife and other routine, in the company of a free woman, beautiful and intelligent. Of course, up to some stage, they pretended not to be married. Then they admitted that marriage had long ago become a sham. Divorce is not a problem, it's just a matter of time. And now you have to wait because. Then they went on with the same explanations. His wife was ill, the children were small, his mother wouldn't understand, she had a weak heart. Are they given the same manuals at the registration of marriage, where it is written how to persuade mistresses? Isabella was sometimes surprised. She did not want to wait, wanted love, family, a life without lies, without prying eyes, without shame, but there was no such thing. Samuel, the hero of the last novel, was, it seemed, not like the others. Maybe it turned out because Isabella herself had fallen in love with him, knew he had a stamp in his passport, and had been for a long time. They were barely 18 when they got married. The bride lied to me, told me she was pregnant. Where could I go? My parents were involved, both mine and hers. So everyone decided that we should get married as soon as possible, before the bride's belly is visible. So I became a married man, and very soon it turned out that there was no child. I lied I really wanted to get married. Can you imagine how we lived? We stayed with her parents. I tried to go to mine, but they chased me back. There's family there, you have to, but what kind of family is there? Scandals, yelling, screaming. 100 times I suggested divorce, but it started a perfect Sodom. Then there was an opportunity to live separately from his parents, and everything is not that settled, but stalled. That is, we almost stopped talking at all, lived as neighbors. I understand she has someone else too. And you don't have kids? Isabella asked. No, and as I understand it, she can't have any. In fact, we haven't lived as husband and wife for 5 years. But why don't you divorce? Isabella was sincerely surprised. It's also very complicated, the apartment issue, money, and in general. I have a car on credit in her name, and besides, we have a lot of debts. No, it's impossible now. We have to wait 6 months. We'll be divorced in 6 months, I promise. But in the meantime, aren't we already a family? She's the legal wife, and you're the one and only. No, she and Samuel did not live together, but several times a week he had no problem staying overnight at his Isabella's house, and she could finally feel like a wife. She ran the household, cooked lunches and dinners, waited for him from work. They were even going on vacation together. They had already chosen a resort, were ready to buy vouchers and tickets. They were working the last days before the vacation. And just a day before they were going to the travel agency, Samuel came to his beloved at a bad hour and hiding his eyes said, "I'm sorry, honey, but the trip is postponed." Not for long. I don't know how much you know. Circumstances have changed. What circumstances? We agreed. I already have and packed, and vacation I have registered. What could have changed? At first, Isabella was just surprised to think that the trip had been postponed for a few days. A lot of things, Isabella. My wife gave birth to a son yesterday, congratulations. And Isabella saw that Samuel was really happy, rejoicing, though troubled. But troubled by what? That he had to say it to her. Or was something else troubling him? How did she give birth? How did it happen? I don't understand, you told me. Isabella realized how silly her question sounded. Well, it's just like giving birth, like everyone else, just like us. We haven't invented anything fundamentally new. I'm married, my wife gave birth. I don't think that's surprising. The lover explained as if nothing had happened. I understand that, but not in your case. You said you don't live with your wife at all, and there can't be any children. Oh, my God, Isabella, what are you talking about? You sound like a 16-year-old girl. You must know that all married men say that to their girlfriends. Well, I said yes. I may be guilty, I may be blamed for it, but you're just as guilty, both to yourself and, pardon me, to public morality. That's not what I'm saying. I'm telling you that our trip is completely impossible right now. Maybe it'll happen, but we have to solve this issue somehow. You know, the wife is not in the best condition. How could I leave them now and go away? Samuel was really surprised at Isabella's incomprehension. How were you going to go just a week ago? After all, we planned this trip together, didn't we? Or didn't you know your wife was going to have a baby soon? She really didn't realize it. Well, the thing is, the baby was born prematurely. I thought we had a month, maybe a month and a half. Why not go? But my son was rushed, and that really complicates things. The baby is premature. My wife is in serious condition. They need help. I have to be there for them. Samuel explained it so convincingly, in a businesslike manner, as if he were talking to a fellow worker, convincing him that it was impossible to go fishing. And yet I don't understand. How could you live with me all this time, stay overnight? Your wife didn't know? Or didn't care? Actually, Isabella already realized that this affair was over, but still wanted to know how Samuel managed so cleverly to lead two women by the nose at once. I didn't know. She was on maternity leave, in the sanatorium rested, went to her mother. That's when I stayed at your place. And thank you very much. We were very good together. We were happy. You have to admit, that's a lot too. I don't see any reason to get hysterical about it now. I'm not throwing any tantrums. I just don't understand how you could do it. What could I do? What did I do? I don't understand what you're doing out of nowhere. You knew I was married from the beginning. You must have realized I was probably lying. Now what's the big deal? You're a grown woman, and I was hoping you'd take it maturely, calmly. Yes, it happened like this, but we can keep a good relationship, and soon we can still go on vacation together. We'll have time. When? When your kid goes to school, retires from the army? What are we gonna drive, a wheelchair? At least you'll have someone to drive you around. No, I'm not going to wait for that kind of happiness. Goodbye. I'm sorry, dear, but I'll drive without you, and I'll do everything without you. The woman said angrily. That's good. That's right. Go without me. And understand, I really didn't lie to you. I love you. I wanted to marry you, to divorce my wife, but you see what happened. Samuel, apparently, did not want unnecessary scenes and explanations, so he tried to get rid of Isabella as soon as possible, but she just wanted some clarity. You didn't do this without your involvement. I thought you said you didn't live with your wife. I wouldn't have messed with you if I didn't. Here we go again. I told you. I didn't know what I said. Was I supposed to report to you? Or ask permission to sleep with my lawfully wedded wife? That's it, get out. Sleep with whoever you want. Don't sleep with whoever you want, but get out of my life forever. Cut Isabella off. Okay, Isabella. You know my phone number. Call me if you need anything. You're still important to me. Get out. Samuel left, and Isabella was alone again in an empty apartment. It was hard. It was unpleasant. Disgusting it was. To realize that she was being used again, that she was once again, no one wanted her, no one cared about her. It's so disgusting. What can she do after that? Look for another man and hope that he is married or not will take her seriously. And she's already 37. It's not the clock ticking. It's the volleys rumbling. It's hard to keep it all inside, but who else to talk to about it? Not Lisa, the same Lisa who's been treated no better by fate. I really don't understand, Lisa. Why is this happening? I've tried to find the reason in myself, but I can't find it. I'm a normal woman, perfectly normal, just like you. Yes, we could be perfect wives, mothers, but we could be true happiness for someone. And we're always victimized by who the hell knows what. But why? I wish I knew. I have the same thoughts myself. Sometimes I think we just did the wrong thing from the beginning. We should have gotten married when we were 18, and everything would have been fine. And by the way, we could have been. Remember in 10th grade when Ethan was in love with me? And there was a guy chasing you. I don't remember his name. He was in the same class as me. Ethan? I don't remember anything like that. All I remember is that everybody ran away from me when they got what they wanted. I don't think anybody ever loved me. Nobody ever loved me at all. They just used me like Samuel. Well, think about it. To lie so authentically, to gain his trust, and yet I fell in love with him. And what a bastard, he's so sure that if he blows the whistle, I'll run away. Imagine him saying that. You have my phone number. Call me if you need anything. How does it feel? Everybody else did the same thing to me. Why is that? I don't know. I guess we just missed out on the ones who were really in love, but I only remember them in my early teens, and then, yeah, it was all stupid and gross. You, Isabella, you're making me sad. I think you've lost faith in life because of that Samuel of yours. Forget it and forget it. It's time to think about the future. We don't have much time left. We have to find a real man. Because of Samuel, because of Eric and all that, because they were all Samuel, and there was nothing else in my life, you know? What real men? Where are you gonna find them, you tell me? Let's go to a dance, to a disco, to a 30s night. Let's find another Mason, and in a week, or a year from now, we'll be crying on each other's shoulders again. No, Lisa, I've decided I'm not falling in love or having any more relationships. It's time for me to age gracefully and take care of my health. Every affair like this takes 5 years off my life. How hopeless you all turns out, right here at Wants to Grow Old, but I'm sure that we will definitely be lucky, and it is not necessary for this to go to some clubs and so on. Maybe our happiness is much closer than it seems. Of course it is. Do you have a roommate? Abandoned by his wife for drunkenness and abuse? Isabella asked venomously. You're getting a little soft, friend. In my opinion, Isabella, the whole problem is that you already agree that only the worst can pay attention to you. But I, for example, do not think so. What does that have to do with some abandoned neighbor, some drunk, or, I don't know, someone who's been in jail? Nobody's offering you that. We have unmarried and quite decent men at work. Lisa persisted. 20-something guys, thank you. I haven't gotten to the point of throwing myself at little things, either, and I hope I never will. You're 20 years old. John's in his 30s or more. And Brain, he's not the freshest flower either. I think he's in his 30s, although there's nothing wrong with 20-year-olds, and we have people our age at work. Married men. I don't want to get involved with married men anymore. And that's a lie to listen to. You know, it's no fun either. Nobody's forcing you to get involved with married people. What's wrong with our sales manager, Jack? Isn't he married? Isabella was already making her friend laugh. Married? Our enemies should be married like that. You're right about something, though. He's too tough a nut for us. Maybe he's divorced already. They say he was married for a long time and not happily. He loved his wife so much, and she cheated on him left and right. Can you believe it? Just out in the open. Well, how else could it be when everyone knows and almost laughs in her face? He knew everything. And so she cheated on him, and he loved her, but then, apparently, reached the edge and fell out of love. But that's still not our option. If he loved her for 10 years and put up with everything, he probably loves her now. Are they divorced or not? No, Jack. Let him live with the memory of his lost love. We need to find someone else. I don't think work is an option either. If I wanted to have a relationship at work, I'd have looked at Jack myself a long time ago. Noticed Isabella. What am I hearing? So you like him after all? Lisa rejoiced. Why shouldn't I like him? He's a normal man, decent and handsome. Isabella reasoned. Yes, she really liked him, and only some of his aloofness prevented her from paying closer attention to Jack. Besides, she thought he was married. Yeah, you'd pay attention, wouldn't he? Well, if I did, maybe he would. Why wouldn't he? Isabella was stubborn. No man, whatever you want, but that's not an option. Why don't we look for someone else? Lisa persuaded her. Otherwise, we'll really have to cry a lot. But I don't understand you, Lisa. You're pushing me. You're discouraging me. I don't know if it's not an option for you, but I think I could get to know him better. Don't make up things, Isabella. You're on the wrong track, trying to get in the wrong sled again. I'm not trying to get into anything. I'm not telling you that I'm getting close to Jack, but I don't think it's out of place. The only reason I'm not getting close to him is because we work next door to each other, and that's not the best thing for any kind of relationship. Come on, I get it, and I'm not discouraging you. I'm just warning you that this is a really inaccessible fellow. We won't be able to melt his heart. That's what you think, but I'm sure I could. Isabella suddenly took possession of a kind of dash. She reasoned as if relieved. Everything is bad, love is gone, but why not try again? Would she really agree to go on living? Without love, without hope, to have cats, to grow old, to take care of her health, to drink kefir, to eat oatmeal on water. No way! How about you? Lisa sighed. No, that's the attitude I like. I recognize my Isabella. But I'd advise you to be careful. Jack's good, I'll give you that, but he's gonna be a little hard to deal with, and the results may be worse than Samuel. Maybe you're right, but I'll give it a try. A free-spirited man with no particular flaws. Yeah, love for another woman. That's not a flaw for you. What love? They have such a complicated relationship, and you don't know if he's divorced or not. That's love for you. They say she left him, and such love is even stronger. The one who was abandoned is forgotten, but the one who was abandoned. Don't listen to any gossip. It does not look like he would forgive cheating and then cry for the woman who left him, spitting on everything. They didn't have kids, did they? There are definitely no children. He does not pay alimony, but here it is far from children. The main thing is the feeling for this wife. Lisa reasoned. You know all about his feelings. He reported to you directly. But I bet that I can win him over very easily. Bet. Oh, you do? Well, let's bet. Who's against it? But let's bet on something serious, not a candy bar. Because no one will fight for a candy bar and there's no interest. Remember we were looking at rings at the jewelry store, and you liked one expensive one. I really liked it too, by the way. So let's bet on that ring, shall we? That's how this strange wager was made. Something pushed to this deed quite adult, serious, educated women, maybe upset feeling, maybe drunk at the beginning of the conversation, a bottle of white wine. At any rate, the bet was made, and Isabella walked home in a rather high spirits. It made her laugh that she and Lisa had had such a bet. How she would accomplish her goal Isabella did not think much about, but after all, if nothing came of it, she would have to buy her friend a ring. Yes, it's expensive, but what can you do? Where else would the money go? She doesn't have kids, she doesn't even have pets, and she has enough for herself. It wasn't about the rings or the bed. She was suddenly excited. She really liked Jack, though she hadn't followed the twists and turns of his life, especially after his affair with Samuel had begun. After all, Isabella was sure she would be married soon. And now what? Why not pay attention to a worthy man? But how to do it? They have been working in the same firm for almost a year. They see each other almost every day, sometimes discuss work issues, and never from the side of Jack. There was not the slightest interest in Isabella as a woman. So what should she do now if she wants to be noticed? Dress more showy, more provocative. No, this way you will not attract attention, and who she will make fun of, who will be outraged, you are at work in the office. Yes, and not a girl already, a grown-up aunt, ridiculous to show their charms. However, business clothes can be very seductive. Isabella knew her strengths. She had a beautiful figure, thick hair, well-groomed face. Even familiar women did not give her 37 years old, although she never hid her age, just watched her appearance. At work the next day, she was going to be especially diligent. No, the style of dress was businesslike, but with a hint. The slit on her pencil skirt was a little deeper than usual, and when walking sometimes revealed the lace garter of her stocking. The neckline on the off-white blouse, too, was a little more daring, and she had her hair styled in a sleek but sophisticated knot. A little more colorful makeup, nail polish, everything was elaborate, austere but mysterious. And most importantly, the perfume. They weren't exactly work-appropriate, spicy, tantalizing. Everyone had noticed since the morning that Isabella today looked somehow particularly attractive, everyone except Jack. They had to talk to Isabella a few times on the job. Once, while showing some numbers on a report, she bent over his computer keyboard so low that she almost touched Jack's cheek. And nothing, not the slightest emotion. He just leaned back in his chair slightly so as not to disturb Isabella. In short, the day had passed in vain, and Isabella had no idea what to do next. Well, not to carry her to work pies of her own production, trying to win the heart of the boss. Some women in this way, trying to influence the man they like, remembering that the way to his heart is through the stomach. Who just thought up such nonsense? What goes through the stomach, we know what it turns into. But I'm not going to go to him with an explicit proposal. It's disgusting to think about. At the same time, I didn't want to back down, and not just to win the argument. And really, I'm getting old or what? A normal kind of man, but no attention. She thought with annoyance. Well, let him not fall in love right away, but at least he can't look at me like a wall, can he? And Ethan, younger than him and me by 10 years, still stares at me, even talks to me, but this one? Either I'm losing my touch, or there's something wrong with him. I tried to act, and more frankly, once, seeing that Jack goes down the corridor, lurked around the corner, and hearing the approaching footsteps, all twisted, slightly lifted her skirt and pretended to correct the seam on the stocking. Not even a glance. Another time, as if accidentally bumped into him, she dropped a folder with documents from her hands, so that the sheets flew all over the corridor. Jack apologized, began to help her collect the documents. Their hands collided, but he only helped, not a glance in her direction. Meanwhile, already other co-workers were beginning to notice Isabella's exertions and chuckle. One of the women bluntly asked, "What are you, Isabella?" For Jack decided to run. What else? What kind of nonsense? Isabella was indignant, feeling a traitorous blush on her face. But it looks like that. All twirling around, twirling. Oh, in vain. In this way you can only push away. Maybe that's what I'm trying to do," Isabella said irritatively. Lisa started laughing too, hinting that she would soon have a new ring. The month-long period in which Isabella was to win Jack was coming to an end, but there was not the slightest change in his attitude. One day, the director of the firm announced that 2 employees had to go on a business trip to sign an important contract. "A lot depends on success," strictly said the boss. "We'll go, of course, Jack, and with him." "Can I go?" "May I?" Several voices shouted at once. "No, you're not experienced enough, and I need you on the spot. Isabella, I think, will do the best job. Wouldn't you agree?" "Yes, of course," Isabella answered in a steady voice. She realized that this business trip gave her a chance, but she tried not to show her feelings. Someone might have believed her indifference, but not Lisa. She understood the possibilities for her friend. "But there you go. Now you'll win for sure. He'll take you in his car." "Right. You'll be there as a couple." "Oh, I don't know, Lisa." Isabella waved away, trying to hide her triumph. "I'm seriously thinking about buying a ring and giving it to you. It would be easier and less frustrating. I feel like some kind of maniac. Don't make it up. That's because at work, in public all the time, and there will be 2 of you, in an informal setting. Yes, here anyone wins. Don't forget to bring some nice lingerie and a party dress. The green one. You'll seduce anyone in it." On the day of departure, Jack picked Isabella up at exactly the right time. She had packed her traveling bag with great care the day before. In the morning, she also carefully applied makeup, did her hair, but she did not dress. She met her colleague in a lace negligee, thrown on the most elegant underwear. Such an outfit best emphasized all the advantages of her figure and, according to Isabella, made a lasting impression on any man. But Jack looked at her as if she had opened the door in a man's tracksuit. "Aren't you ready yet? It's a 5-hour drive." His tone was extremely unhappy. "Oh, come in." "I'm sorry. I'm so nervous. I was afraid I'd forget something." "Come in. Wait 5 minutes. I'll wait downstairs in the car. Try to make it 10 minutes, please." And he calmly turned and walked out. Isabella almost cried with frustration. Such an elaborate image was wasted. Yes, he must be impotent or something worse. And here I am dancing in front of him as if he were Jack, the last man on earth and in my life. "Oh, Lisa, you got me going, even though you said you couldn't do it." "That's what lured me," she thought angrily, hurriedly dressing without much effort. What did it matter how she looked if there was no one to appreciate her efforts? In the car, however, Jack decided, apparently, to change from anger to mercy. "I'm sorry that I rushed you so much, but soon the traffic will start, and I wouldn't want to be late. We have to check into the hotel, go to bed on time, so that tomorrow we won't yawn at this very important meeting." "Oh no, you'll forgive me. I'm always so afraid of forgetting something when I'm traveling, so I take a little longer than I'd like." Isabella was a little amused. It was a start that pleased the woman, but that was the end of it. She tried to make casual conversation, but the companion answered one-wordedly, showing that he was not interested in conversation at all. And Isabella was resentfully silent, preferring to look out of the window. They drove for a long time and arrived at the place in a small town in the late afternoon. Near the hotel, Isabella got out of the car, stretched with pleasure, not for the sake of seduction, just tired. Almost 6 hours sitting in the same position, my whole body was stiff. "Oh, I'm so hungry and sleepy," she sighed. "Let's check in and go to a restaurant." "Not a hotel restaurant. There's usually nothing good in those, but over there." "I've seen behind that grove. There's some place, and we'll walk there." "He's coming. I'm tired too, but I want to stretch my legs. Let's go check in. At the information desk, an unpleasant surprise awaited them. The receptionist said, in an apologetic tone, that although they had booked 2 rooms, one was already occupied, a certain important guest had arrived. What are we supposed to do? Jack wondered. We are not important guests, but we are here on business. We have an important event tomorrow, and you suggest me to sleep outside. Why should we? Mumbled the receptionist. There is one room, and it is quite spacious. You can make sure of it. There is a large double bed, even a 7-bedroom bed. We are not spouses, not relatives. How should we sleep? One by one? Jack was boiling. Even Isabella was discouraged by what had happened, although the situation greatly increased her chances of success. However, there was nothing to do. They had to go to this one room. The receptionist accompanying them muttered something about moving the chair, and she would send them extra blankets. There was a way out of every predicament. If you had arrived early, we would have tried to find one of you a room in town, somewhere nearby. Thank you, you're all set. The main thing for you was to get someone important settled, and we can sleep on the floor, on a chair, wandering around in corners. Mind you, I'll be forced to file a complaint. Of course, as an apology, we can deliver you a free dinner to your room. The receptionist promised. Thank you. Do you really think that after what happened, we have any reason to trust you and your staff? Keep your dinner and we'll have to eat at another restaurant. Cut Jack off. Well, this place is pretty cozy. Isabella said conciliatingly when they were alone in the room. It's really quite spacious. We can get along without disturbing each other. Let's get ready to go to the restaurant, shall we? I wonder how careless you are about everything, said Jack. I am not so much frightened by the prospect of spending 24 hours or whatever it turns out to be with you in the same room as I am outraged by the attitude of the administration. The room was booked and here you are. It feels like some kind of bad joke, but don't take it so personally. What can we change? Kick someone out of the room? File a complaint? What's the big deal? After all, we're both adults and nothing bad can happen here. You're not a maniac, and I promise not to bother you either. We can coexist peacefully. Thank you, of course. We probably won't annoy each other, but the situation is unpleasant. Jack didn't stop. Oh, how many unpleasant situations are there in life? Let's pack up and go to a restaurant. Maybe it will be a more pleasant pastime. Isabella joked. Jack was annoyed, dissatisfied. Isabella, on the contrary, amused. She felt that she would soon reach her goal, so she was going to the restaurant with all care. It was necessary to change out of traveling clothes, to tidy up. Isabella, do you know it's past 10 o'clock? We should go to bed early tonight to look like normal business people tomorrow. Hurry up, Jack. Yeah, sure, I'll be right back. We have to look normal at the restaurant, too. I'm always a little disheveled after the road. Flirtatiously responded the woman. I doubt that anyone will look at us there, and even if they do, who cares? But would you really like to accompany a woman who looks unkempt? Isabella was offended at the end. You look fine. Stop poking around. I want to eat, not escort women. Yes, you're not a master of caring for women. Isabella sighed and went about her business. I didn't come here to woo you. Jack cut me off. Anyway, you can make up as much as you like. I'm going to the restaurant. You'll find your own way, and I'll get us a table. Or there won't be room for us. Well, go ahead. I'll catch up with you real quick, said Isabella. When Jack had gone, she sank into a chair. Well, she had a beau. You'd never find one like him. Perhaps he would lie in the same bed with her, turn his back and snore. Where else would you see such a thing? If Lisa saw it, She'd die laughing, she thought irritably. She decided to get ready, not for Jack's sake, but for her own. She wanted to look good, attractive. After all, she would be going to a restaurant in a new place. Maybe she would make an impression on other men, and Jack would melt a little when he saw it. She walked out of the hotel onto the almost nighttime street. It was dark and deserted, and she had to pass through a small square. She was not afraid, though, for the silence and tranquility of the town whispered that nothing bad could happen here. The woman boldly went forward, becoming alarmed only when she noticed that she was being followed by two big guys who were examining her with appraising glances and whispering. "Young men, I don't need security," Isabella told them when they got too close. "But we are in great need of the company of beautiful women, and you are quite suitable for us in this respect." The guys came close, and she felt their hands on her body. Long-saved irritation finally spilled out on these bullies. What the hell is this? The one who needs does not pay the slightest attention, but these are ready to pester every minute. "Get off, you scoundrel!" She shouted and hit one of them with her purse. "Look at you, what a stubborn cot!" Glumly said the other, and showed that they were not going to lag behind, but Isabella was not going to be an easy prey. Enraged, she hammered both of them at once with her purse, and with her fists, knees, legs, cutting them down with the last words. "Oh, come on, she's some kind of seizure," said one of them at last. "Fool, nobody was going to rape you. We wanted to invite you to a restaurant, but now you go out alone, and there is a maniac here, by the way, so wait for him." "Going away," the guy shouted, and then someone else came from behind and took her by the shoulder. Only then Isabella remembered that she had a gas canister in her purse, pulled it out, and quickly looked around and pointed it in the attacker's face. It was Jack. "Isabella, what the hell are you doing?" he shouted, covering his face with his hands. The woman looked at her coworker confused. "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was that maniac and it was you. Let's go quickly to the restaurant. There is a toilet. You can rinse your face." The woman mumbled fearfully. They reached the restaurant. Jack went to clean himself up. Isabella sat down at a table. When her companion came out with inflamed and reddened eyes, Isabella almost cried with guilt. "I'm sorry, please. I just don't understand how it happened. I wanted to defend myself. These hooligans, and they attacked so suddenly. How did you end up here?" "I thought you were at the restaurant having dinner?" "Yes, I was going to have dinner. I went to the restaurant, took this table, and then, to be honest, I felt bad about leaving you behind, but I decided to come and meet you and bring you here. Just like a gentleman, and that's what happened. I hope I don't lose my eyesight. Why did I even agree to come, and with you? It would have been better if I'd taken someone else or gone alone. There's no second room at the hotel anyway. No way, honestly. What's my fault? I'm not the one who sent some tall guest to take our room." After using the spray can, Isabella didn't dare to be too indignant. "I promise that in the negotiations we came here for, you won't have to regret that it was me who went. Of course, I'm not saying it's your fault. It's just that it's all so ridiculous, and you know, Isabella, somehow I think it's not that it's your fault, but how do you want to make a mess of things all the time? Sometimes I feel like you're just stalking me. Maybe you don't feel that way." Suddenly, Isabella blurted, afraid of her own words. I decided to turn this unpleasant conversation into a joke. "I'm a spy sent by a rival firm." "Ah, setting a trap for me." "I see." Jack grinned crookedly and put the napkin over his eye again. "It's true, it's very peculiar, but how am I going to show up at a serious event tomorrow looking like this? People will think I've been drinking all night." "Oh, don't worry about it. I have this eye cream." It relieves inflammation instantly. I brought it with me just as I felt like it. I'm sure it'll help you. And in the morning, put some patches under your eyes. I've got them with me. They're great for bruising and bags under the eyes. So you'll look flawless, I promise. Yeah, well, you can take care of yourself. I've seen that. I hope you'll give me the same beauty treatments. You're not going to do my makeup? If you ask me nicely, my cosmetics are expensive and good, don't doubt it. Isabella was joking. In the meantime, let's just forget about the trouble and go in peace. The food here is not bad, I see. Thanks to the jokes and the good dinner, they returned to the hotel in a good mood. When they entered the room, they began to make themselves comfortable for the night. Jack began to make a bed on the floor from the extra blankets he had brought, and Isabella made the bed. Look, Jack, maybe we shouldn't make some kind of bed on the floor. The bed's really wide. We each have our own blanket. We can sleep without touching each other. No kicking each other or pestering each other. I don't snore. I hope you don't either. I don't know if I snore or not. I don't think I used to, but this, as you say, bedpan, I'm quite happy with it. I don't want you to think anything bad of it, but it makes me feel better. And I think it'll make you feel better too. I don't know, I'm not going to be nervous anyway. We're not innocent teenagers, thank God. We're both adults, so what's the point of demonstrating? Well, whatever you want, I'm not going to talk you into it. It's just embarrassing. You're already sorry you came with me. It's not a demonstration, and I don't regret anything, that's all. Well, that's not necessary. If you say so. You're not married, are you? Isabella asked. What's that got to do with it? I'm divorced, but that has nothing to do with today's situation. If I were married, I'd be sleeping in my car. I respect women, you see, and I don't want to put them in an ambiguous position. That's why I'm lying on the floor. We wanted to invite you to a restaurant, but now you go out alone, and there is a maniac here, by the way, so wait for him. Going away, the guy shouted, and then someone else came from behind and took her by the shoulder. Only then Isabella remembered that she had a gas canister in her purse, pulled it out, and quickly looked around and pointed it in the attacker's face. It was Jack. Isabella, what the hell are you doing? He shouted, covering his face with his hands. The woman looked at her coworker confused. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was that maniac and it was you. Let's go quickly to the restaurant. There is a toilet. You can rinse your face. The woman mumbled fearfully. They'd reached the restaurant. Jack went to clean himself up. Isabella sat down at a table. When her companion came out with inflamed and reddened eyes, Isabella almost cried with guilt. I'm sorry, please. I just don't understand how it happened. I wanted to defend myself, these hooligans, and they attacked so suddenly. How did you end up here? I thought you were at the restaurant having dinner. Yes, I was going to have dinner. I went to the restaurant, took this table, and then, to be honest, I felt bad about leaving you behind, but I decided to come and meet you and bring you here. Just like a gentleman, and that's what happened. I hope I don't lose my eyesight. Why did I even agree to come, and with you? It would have been better if I'd taken someone else or gone alone. There's no second room at the hotel anyway. No way, honestly. What's my fault? I'm not the one who sent some tall guest to take our room. After using the spray can, Isabella didn't dare to be too indignant. I promise that in the negotiations we came here for, you won't have to regret that it was me who went. Of course, I'm not saying it's your fault. It's just that it's all so ridiculous, and you know, Isabella, somehow I think it's not that it's your fault, but how do you want to make a mess of things all the time? Sometimes I feel like you're just stalking me. Maybe you don't feel that way. Suddenly, Isabella blurted, Afraid of her own words, I decided to turn this unpleasant conversation into a joke. I'm a spy sent by a rival firm. Ah, setting a trap for me. I see. Jack grinned crookedly and put the napkin over his eye again. It's true, it's very peculiar. But how am I going to show up at a serious event tomorrow looking like this? People will think I've been drinking all night. Oh, don't worry about it. I have this eye cream. It relieves inflammation instantly. I brought it with me just as I felt like it. I'm sure it'll help you, and in the morning, put some patches under your eyes. I've got them with me. They're great for bruising and bags under the eyes. So you'll look flawless, I promise. Yeah, well, you can take care of yourself. I've seen that. I hope you'll give me the same beauty treatments. You're not going to do my makeup? If you ask me nicely. My cosmetics are expensive and good, don't doubt it. Isabella was joking. In the meantime, let's just forget about the trouble and go in peace. The food here is not bad, I see. Thanks to the jokes and the good dinner, they returned to the hotel in a good mood. When they entered the room, they began to make themselves comfortable for the night. Jack began to make a bed on the floor from the extra blankets he had brought, and Isabella made the bed. Look, Jack, maybe we shouldn't make some kind of bed on the floor. The bed's really wide. We each have our own blanket. We can sleep without touching each other. No kicking each other or pestering each other. I don't snore. I hope you don't either. I don't know if I snore or not. I don't think I used to, but this, as you say, bedpan, I'm quite happy with it. I don't want you to think anything bad of it, but it makes me feel better. And I think it'll make you feel better too. I don't know, I'm not going to be nervous anyway. We're not innocent teenagers, thank God. We're both adults. So what's the point of demonstrating? Well, whatever you want. I'm not going to talk you into it. It's just embarrassing. You're already sorry you came with me. It's not a demonstration, and I don't regret anything, that's all. Well, it's not necessary, if you say so. You're not married, are you? Isabella asked. What's that got to do with it? I'm divorced, but that has nothing to do with today's situation. If I were married, I'd be sleeping in my car. I respect women, you see, and I don't want to put them in an ambiguous position. That's why I'm lying on the floor. Respect all women? Surprised Isabella, who was already aware of the adventures of Jack's ex-wife. Why not? I can't stand only their bad habits and can't accept cheating. You're not married either, are you? There was a clear desire to change the subject, and Isabella answered readily. No, and never have been. I was going to, yes, but it didn't work out. Maybe it was for the best, especially when you think about the people I was going to marry. You know, everything seems fine, everything is going to the wedding, and suddenly such details are revealed that you realize that you cannot live with this person. That's the way it is. You probably think I'm trying to get to you and harass you and all that. And you seem to think I set up the room all by myself. I assure you, I didn't. No, why would you think that? I don't think that at all. Although it is strange that we've been bumping into each other lately, and every time it's not good. And now we have to share a room. I don't think it's your doing, but it does seem a bit deliberate. It's rare to see strangers, a man and a woman, forced to share a room, but like brother and sister. Isabella smiled in the dark. Let's go to sleep already, shall we? Jack agreed, but they both couldn't sleep for a long time, thinking about their own things. Isabella pondered whether she should continue her endeavors with this hard nut. And Jack, he wondered whether he had offended this nice woman with his inattention, sometimes rude remarks, which could be taken as an insult. I'm a fool. I can see that she is not indifferent to me, so why should I push her away? After all, I like Isabella, and because of my complexes, we can remain strangers forever. And the main thing is that I can't understand why I'm behaving like this. Keep fidelity to me no one, and to marry I would like no less than she married, or I'm afraid that again something will go wrong. My first love cost me a lot of blood. Of course, to assume that it will always be so is not to assume that it will always be so. But still I would not like to be convinced of it, by experience. The next day was very responsible. They had to achieve the conclusion of the contract, that is, to convince the partners of mutual benefit, and both Isabella and Jack were extremely collected and persuasive. Thoughts about personal problems left them. However, even before the negotiations began, Isabella jokingly made a wish. If all succeeds with this contract, then with Jack we will be all right. Perhaps she was hoping to build a relationship in some way to show her best side. Jack would see that she wasn't a flake, and maybe he'd at least give her a real compliment. Everything turned out as well as possible, but the only thing Isabella waited for from the one for whom she made so much effort was a firm, friendly handshake. What kind of a man is that? Was it hard to get a kind word out of him? All the others admire, but this one, the woman thought sadly. It was decided to celebrate the successful deal with a corporate party in the banquet hall, and Isabella decided to show up at the party in the full glory of her mature beauty. Okay, she lost to Lisa, but let Jack see that he lost even more. It is not known what she did not please him, but Isabella will not get to the bottom of it. How many times can we do this? Apparently, she's just not the one for him. Well, love was without joy. Separation will be without sorrow, the woman thought, though she had been convinced more than once that this belief was wrong. She had a little love with joy, but parting brought much grief. Well, at least now there would be a chance to relax a little. And Isabella shone. She came to the party dressed not at all businesslike. Jack had never seen her before in such a dress, with such a hairdo, compliments from everyone, even from women. There was no end. Everyone wanted to drink, dance with her, and Isabella did not refuse anyone. Happily drank champagne glass after glass, joked, quipped, flirted. Jack's serious look did not upset her, but only encouraged her, let him see what she could be. She was sitting there like an owl. She wouldn't ask me to dance, but that was fine. I wouldn't be lacking cavaliers here. Drunken fun, she thought. And there was no. Everyone wanted to dance with a beautiful, liberated woman. They even tried to get her a date, suggesting she run away from the party. No, you see, I'm not here alone. Isabella refused. Your date doesn't seem very companionable. People wondered. Yes, Jack is a very serious, businesslike man. Agreed Isabella, and Jack saw that Isabella was getting drunker and drunker, probably because of the habit of alcohol. Something broke up my lady. He thought with displeasure. It seemed to be so right, though with a weirdness, and here it is on the through. We should evacuate her before she makes a mess of things. Apparently she can. He walked up to Isabella, took her under his arm. Isabella, don't you think it's time for us to go home? You seem tired, he said coldly. Tired? I haven't even begun to have fun yet, the woman replied stubbornly, pulling back her hand. When do you, Jack? Call for me. I'd like to know. Isabella, in spite of her condition, still realized that it was necessary to restrain herself a little, to watch her tongue, or as if she would really not say too much, but she wanted to shout in his face in front of everyone. Where am I supposed to go with you? I almost hang on your neck, and you either do not see or do not want to know. It's like fate brought us together, and you're running away like a leper. If I'm so disgusting, Just tell me to back off and stay away. Feeling that now the alcohol she drank would really loosen her tongue and she would be embarrassed for life, Isabella bit her tongue, and Jack, apparently realizing that it was necessary to act quite differently, changed his tone. "Come on, Isabella. You've danced so much, that's enough for tonight." He spoke affectionately, putting his arm around the woman's waist. It was the right move. "Come on, Jack. I've really been jumping around and drinking a little too much, and I'm no good drunk, am I?" "You're always beautiful," Jack assured her. They reached the room, and on the whole way Isabella kept silent, afraid to say something she would regret the next day. Her mood had changed. Now she didn't want to reproach Jack. She wanted to confess her feelings, but on the way she had sobered up a little and realized that this confession might not end well. Well, as he would say something like, "It's all right, go to bed," and then lie on the floor, such humiliation she could not stand. "Why are you so quiet all of a sudden? You used to be so talkative," asked Jack when they came to the room. "My tongue is slipping and my legs are slipping too," mumbled Isabella. "You're a fool, Isabella, and you drink a lot." Letting her into the room, Jack said reproachfully, "I don't drink much, hardly ever at all. I was just disinfecting my mental wounds, that's all," she explained, standing in the middle of the room. They didn't turn on the light. The bright moon was shining directly into the window, its light silvering the woman, coloring her face and hair an unusual ghostly color. "How beautiful you are now, Isabella!" Jack couldn't help himself. "Only now, and tomorrow I will again become ordinary, unnecessary, superfluous?" sadly asked Isabella, who began to sober up as quickly as intoxicated. "Not at all. I always saw how good you were, but I didn't dare. I didn't know how you'd react, afraid you'd push me away." He came over and stroked the woman's pale cheek. "And now you're not afraid?" Putting her hands on his shoulders, Isabella asked. "Now I don't care. Push me wherever you want." Isabella pushed Jack so hard that he fell backward onto the wide bed, arms outstretched, and she slipped into his arms. It was a night of love, with crazy kisses, incredible confessions, vows. Isabella was happy that night, and not because she had won the bet. She realized that she really loved Jack like she had never loved anyone before in her life. She was ready to share her happiness with the whole world, and with Lisa, of course. When Jack fell asleep in her arms, she pulled out her phone, took a selfie and sent it to her friend, letting her see that Isabella hadn't lost her touch, that she could love, and she could be loved too. After that she blissfully dozed off, resting her head on the world's most trusted shoulder. Isabella awoke alone in the morning, but she was neither surprised nor frightened. Jack entered the room with a tray and a cheerful cry. "Who ordered breakfast in bed? Who's hungry?" Isabella clapped her hands. "It didn't even occur to me to order. I thought it only happens in the movies, and it's weird. I'm used to washing up first and then having breakfast, but I'm hungry. I'm gonna take a quick shower, and don't start without me, okay? Don't stay in there too long, because I'm hungry too in every sense." Happy, Isabella ran to the bathroom, hurrying to do her morning toilet as soon as possible. She didn't want to miss a single minute of this wonderful morning, but when she walked in, all the colors seemed to fade. Jack, fully dressed, was busily packing his things into his suitcase, not a trace of his recent cheerfulness on his face. A tray of untouched breakfast stood on the bedside table. "Did you decide to pack before breakfast? There's still time, we'll make it. Why don't you sit down at the table? Have breakfast by yourself. Have a good appetite. I'm going home," he said calmly. "I mean, why?" Are you offended by something? That I didn't eat right away? No, Isabella. It's just that I know everything now. I know the purpose of your mockery of me, this trip, this night. He nodded at the phone on Isabella's pillow. You got a message, I opened it. Read your friend's congratulations. I'll join you. You've done a great job. What did you write? Why did you read it? Isabella reached for the phone, feeling that her hand had become quite cold. I agree. It may not be pretty, but as it turns out, not for nothing. But you listened to your girlfriend's gossip in vain. I'm not married for a long time. If you were, you wouldn't have a chance. That's what I said. What's that got to do with it? Isabella threw the phone away without reading it. Yeah, let's say Lisa and I did something stupid. So we argued, so what? The truth is what happened last night, what I told you, and the rest is nothing. Believe me, I would never have done that if I hadn't cared about you. I wanted to be with you, understand? If you had listened to the whole conversation between me and my friend, how can I understand and believe after what I found out? Jack said tiredly, I saw that you cared for me and paid attention to you too. You seemed to me unusual, not like everyone else, inaccessible and beautiful. In a word, a real woman. And what do I see now? An ordinary cheap girl who decided to play at love with a man who gave no reason for it, and then she drank, and that's that. That's not true, Jack. I'm asking you to sit down. Forget what you saw on that phone and just talk. You'll see that you can trust me. Does everything that's happened between us mean nothing? And what does this have to do with the game and what I drank? You could have just ignored me and moved on. I know you'll try to braid me with your words, seduce me with your charms, but it doesn't mean anything. You, pretending to be madly in love, still had a moment. You filmed the whole thing and sent it to a friend. Just to show off. If you don't think that's gross, I'm sorry. Isabella couldn't take it anymore and went on the offensive. I think it's creepy to go through other people's stuff, to read other people's correspondence. Now I understand why you got divorced. You're just pathologically jealous. Was your wife cheating on you, or did you think she was? Torturing the poor woman with your suspicions, checking her every move so she couldn't take it. You're leaving? Good riddance. I'm very glad I've been spared such a misfortune. Goodbye. Your performance was good, but your technique was lacking. Goodbye. And Jack picked up his things and walked out, slamming the door. That slam calmed Isabella a little, gave her a chance not to fall face down into the pillow, not to burst into tears, which meant that she had hurt him after all, and probably correctly discerned the nature of his relationship with his wife. It is necessary to come to such an idea, to go through her phone, and most importantly, why? What did he want to find there? It's a personal number, not a corporate one. She picked up her phone, opened it to Lisa's message. Congratulations, my friend, you made it, didn't you? Well, I didn't doubt it. The bet's won. You're the winner, as usual, and the ring is yours. She looked at the picture Lisa had sent her. There she was on Jack's shoulder, still happy, still in love, still in love. Loved? Can you walk away like that if you love? And this is coming from me, who's been separated from at least 5 men. It's my fate to be always not loved, but only used. And that too, I slept over, and God bless my legs. He's still slamming the door, so be it. She too began to pack, trying not to think of her victory turning out to be such a defeat that Isabella did cry. But very quickly she calmed down, saying to herself, Enough crying for everyone, it's too much. No and no. In war, as in war. I'm 37, my train has already left. What do I do now? Call a cab and go home to age honestly, quietly, no matter what Lisa and everyone else says. She called a cab, once again surprised that Jack had abandoned her, had not driven her home. How vulnerable is he? She thought contemptuously, and all the way home she tried to remember something else negative about Jack's behavior. She wanted to dislike, even hate him. There were any number of moments like that, but they were all overridden by that night. It was impossible to forget. Was it really over? How will I meet him tomorrow? How will he look me in the eye? Oh, I wish that night had never happened. As Isabella was getting ready to go to work after this harrowing business trip, she thought about how she would meet Jack. Embarrassing, honestly. Grown women, and to think such a thing. And now he had this opinion of me, and he couldn't change it, no matter how hard you beat your head against the wall. But why should I be ashamed? I wonder if he's ashamed of what he said to me after a night like that. But it was worse than you'd think. Jack wasn't at his workplace, but his boss greeted Isabella like a heroine. Thank you, Isabella. You did a brilliant job negotiating and closing a contract that so much depends on. So you and Jack are both getting bonuses. He's even gone further by transferring to a branch that's long overdue. So we will have to think about who will soon become the acting head of the sales department. Isabella was the least interested in this question. The smile on her face became wooden, the look of confusion. So that's it, huh? Jack decided to transfer, not to work with her, not to see every day with the cheap one, and not to remember this stupid story. Oh, come on, I'll worry about that. He transferred and all right, and he did the right thing, good for him. In a week, all this drudgery will be forgotten, and at the same time, and the work in the branch will improve. Well done, Jack. You're a hero. Isabella thought with mocking anger. But the story would not be forgotten, and the searing kisses still burned on her face. Lisa sidled up to her during a break, congratulated her, made resentment stretch out. Lucky you, Isabella. What kind of injustice is this? Some people get everything, awards, praise, a night of love, and a ring, but others. When are we going to the store? I'm not going to say no, am I? We're adults, right? Of course we are. Isabella didn't say no, trying to save face. After work, if you're up for it. Always ready, I know how to lose, answered her friend. Yes, and I would love to lose in this dispute. Anyway, why should I win, these rings and everything else, if he considers me a cheap prostitute and even drinking, ready to sleep with anyone on a drunken binge? Isabella thought, most of all at that moment I wanted not to sit at work, not to go to jewelry stores with Lisa, but to be at home, on my couch, and cry properly. But not to show it to everyone. She should look like a winner, lucky, beautiful as always, and Isabella tried to live up to her status. When the workday was over, Isabella felt so tired, but the need to hold on remained. Lisa picked her up under her arm and spoke into her ear. So shall we go to the jewelry store? I'll look for earrings. Imagine I was going through my jewelry and I don't have a blue stone, but I really need it. I won't buy it now, of course. I don't have enough money, but for my birthday. Listen, Lisa, what if I don't need it? This jewelry store, how stupid is that? I'm ashamed to take that kind of money from you for nothing. Let's consider this whole thing a joke. No way, we've known each other for 100 years. You know very well how serious I am about this kind of thing. Are you trying to make me stop respecting myself? No, of course not, but I told you it was a joke. Isabella wanted to go home and cry, not pick out rings. Why do I need all these rings and earrings and everything in the world? Of course, you won't be helped in any way by these fashionable rags in a brilliantly meaningless woman's fate. Very true. but my feminine destiny, only meaningless and not at all ingenious. Isabella thought absent-mindedly. What's gotten into you, Isabella? Lisa kept up. She is walking, silent as if she had water. That is not water, but sour soup in her mouth. I'm just tired today, and the weather's not so good, so I'm not in the mood. Isabella dismissed it. Strange, you were more than happy in that picture. So tell me what happened with Jack. She needed details, and she wasn't going to be satisfied with generalities. What happened was he found out, saw this picture and your messages. Well, and resented, and as if and all on it, left, slammed the door. What kind of mood could I be in after that? Isabella explained tiredly. Now we'll buy a ring, put it on your finger, and your mood will be better. I know that for a fact. Don't doubt it. Here we are. The friends entered the brightly lit salon of the jewelry store. They approached a shining showcase. Lisa looked intently at Isabella, pushed her. Come on, choose. Which one did you like then? This one? Girl, do you have any size 16s like this? If not, the one with the pink stone. Is that a crown? It's much more delicate, isn't it? Let me try it on, please. Give me your pen, Isabella. Come on, I don't need it. Isabella pulled her hand away and quickly left the store. What is this? What are you, Isabella? It's clear I'm in love. I thought I was just playing around, but it turned out to be serious, didn't it? Lisa giggled. Nobody's in love. What are you talking about? Isabella almost cried, wishing she could get away from Lisa. I'm not blind. I can put two and two together. You look at yourself in the mirror, because in the coffin more beautiful put, under the eyes bruises, pale, even cheeks fall. What's that got to do with it? Isabella couldn't hold back her tears. You know how to fold, so think about why you want to buy me this ring. What will it remind me of? Think about what we two grown-ass women have come up with. It's a 5th grade girl's time to play like this, and we're in our 40s. My women my age have kids getting married. Some of them have grandchildren. I got a man into bed on a dare. Great thing, to drag him in, but not to keep him. He ran away from work to avoid seeing me. Isabella, what are you doing? Lisa consoled her, already frightened. He didn't run away. The chief wanted to transfer him to the branch office long ago. It just so happened. Don't worry, it's not in another city. You'll see he'll call you. Everything will be fine. When have men ever run away from you? Even if you split up, they'll call you for another year. They don't give you peace. Nothing's gonna happen this time. After he found out about our argument, if he calls, it's only to send me further away. And Isabella sobbingly told in detail how Jack had behaved when he found out about their scheme. Do you have any idea how embarrassed I was in front of him? Yeah, even if he wanted some kind of follow-up, he wouldn't have called or come near me. Well, the hell with him. So what if he was a prince? What was he? Lisa asked confusedly. A divorced man, his wife, they say cheated on him. Horns like a moose, and he forgave her after all that. And he decided to steam in your phone. You are not his wife, not his sister. How could he take it in his hands? Not to mention being rude to you. I think he's a bore. I've noticed that for a long time. Remember that Kathy he gave the secretary a telling off. She cried for an hour and drank valerian. Oh, all right, Lisa, I'm going home. I'm exhausted. I can't talk about it anymore. I'm sorry. What about the ring? Come on, let's go buy a ring. You'll make yourself happy. My friend persuaded me. No, Lisa, buy yourself some earrings. I don't want that ring. I'm sorry. The next day, Isabella couldn't walk to work. What if Jack doesn't show up? Yesterday she was afraid to see him. Today she was afraid he wouldn't. After all, there are also women in the branch, and how do you know if someone will be seduced by a handsome, positive, and free man? And she wouldn't be a fool like Isabella. And if he was around, it would be possible to talk somehow, to explain, and their relationship, perhaps, would go to another level. Or maybe it would have been clearer. Jack didn't need her, disgusted by what had happened. But there was a surprise waiting for her at work. "Isabella, I see that you came from a business trip so tired. It's not surprising. The result was pleasing, but now I have a request to you. Things are not going well at the branch. Jack's having a hard time, and you've shown yourselves to be a great team. Can you help out there? If not, your refusal won't make any difference." "Why not?" Isabella exclaimed, holding back her glee. "The more difficult the task, the more interesting it is. I like your spirit, and I'm glad I'm not mistaken in you. When can you go to your place of work?" "I'd like to go today, but I've got some errands to run. So I'll be out there first thing tomorrow morning." "Does Jack know yet?" "Not yet. We'll let you know today. We didn't know if you'd do it." "That's what the warden said. Can we not tell him?" "Let it be a surprise." Isabella asked cheerfully. "All right. Surprise is a surprise." The man didn't argue, apparently realizing something. And Isabella suspected that he had realized it for a reason, not by himself. So she asked her friend at lunchtime, "Did you tell the chief to transfer me to the branch?" "Well, of course I told him, and he immediately obeyed." Lisa snorted. "I didn't tell him anything. It was your Jack who probably asked for you to be transferred to him." Isabella liked that assumption. It was quite possible that Jack himself had asked to be transferred. It would mean, probably, that he wanted to make up his mind about their relationship somehow, too. It would be good if that was the case. That was all she said, sighing. Jack didn't ask for anything. He sat in his office, sorting through the statements and schedules, his mind wandering with thoughts of her, of Isabella, and it was impossible to escape them. And those thoughts were, more often than not, guilty. But what had I done? Why had I hurt a woman? A good woman. It was a great sin, she argued. After all, she bet on me, and not on others who are also single and pretty. So she cared for me after all? And why she probably got into that bet? Because I'm a sucker myself, I acted like I wasn't interested in her at all. So I upset her. I did not know how to impress, how to start a serious conversation, and that's why this dispute happened. And then she was too much. It was worth it to make a story out of it, and even more so to insult her like that. And now what should I do? Call and apologize? He was aware that it was probably the best option to apologize, but he didn't know how Isabella would react. After all, she was very offended and even angry with him. And rightfully so, anyone would be angry, even a very loving person. Not everyone is capable of being forgiving, understanding. Is it because after Lara, I can't get over it? I can't learn to treat people differently, women in particular. With the usual disgust, he remembered his ex-wife Lara. Yes, she had cheated on him throughout their torturous 10-year marriage. She cheated and he forgave. The cheating started before they were married. They met when they were students, studying together. Jack fell in love. Just to cramps, she was good at the time, but the main thing is not even beauty, but some kind of attraction. She attracted and beckoned not only him alone, but almost everyone, but she was responsive in this regard. It seemed that she and Jack had already had an affair, love, and it was even getting to the wedding. And suddenly he finds out that she shares her caresses between him and another man, and it would be all right a promising man, capable of something to strike a girl's imagination, no. a married older man, father of 3. Jack, of course, immediately presented Lara with a claim that is not even a claim. He almost died when he found out about her adventures, and only then directly asked what happened. Why? She cried a lot, repented, apologized, said that she gave in to emotions, that it was an accident, and never again with anyone, no way. And he forgave because the application had already been filed and the wedding preparations were in full swing. That is, no, he was not interested and would not stop it, but the wedding would be upset and it would be fine. He could not imagine how he would be without her, without Lara. Anyway, they got married and she gave in to her emotions a few more times. Those were the times he knew about. And she'd done it all strangely, not even hiding it, so sure was she that he'd forgive her. Or did she care that much whether he would forgive or not? And even people were not ashamed. No, it was all strange and then disgusting, and he realized that he was turning into a ridiculous character in some book. His wife comes in from her lover and says, "And I did it again," and the husband cries. No way, he's not going to be like that. Should I put up with it? Yes, it's better to suffer once and forget it. Maybe she had a disease like that, nymphomania? Who cares? But in any case, the marriage broke up. The funny thing is, it was Lara's initiative. She found herself a more financially favorable party, and with that and disappeared from the life of her ex-husband. Jack couldn't get back together with anyone else. Not because he loved his ex-wife so much that he couldn't forget her. Of course he couldn't forget her, but what love is there? Love did not remain. It was replaced not even hatred, but some cold contempt. And in other women he continued to see something bad, to suspect that they could do the same. And what kind of relationship if you look at a man and suspect him in this? And then Isabella appeared, and she really made an impression on him. Jack already thought that he'd found the one who would help him forget the failure, the mistake of his youth that had cost him so much. Even in Isabella's beauty, there was something that set her apart from other women. There was no availability, no willingness to betray. That was why he didn't dare approach her. He didn't know how to communicate with such women. What kind of women did he have? Well, Lara, and then? And then they were no better, just disposable friends, relations with whom left nothing but disgust in his memory. That's why he couldn't communicate with a normal woman. He was used to such women. How happy was he when he found out that the two of them were going on a business trip? And this room is one for 2. It was literally the hand of fate. No, not in the sense that he was going to get into bed with her, but it was possible to talk, to get to know each other better. And then all of a sudden, it's like this. It's a pretty weird thing to do. And what do we do now? No, of course we should apologize. It's not her fault. Maybe it was a friend who put her up to it, maybe. Yeah, whatever it was, either way, it's not worth crucifying a woman for making a mistake that no one got hurt by except for one inhibited psychopath named Jack. And after all, that night was so good and Isabella was so sincere. Nothing like that had ever happened with Lara. There had been lies at every turn, shame and embarrassment, but here, it could have been different here. If it weren't for my stubbornness and the memories of a first marriage long overdue to be forgotten. Otherwise, I'll never get out of this maze. Everywhere you step into, there are new corridors, traps, basements, and all paths lead to some polymath rather than the personal happiness I so seek. Jack was so engrossed in his memories and torments that he was hardly surprised when the office door opened and Isabella walked in. It was as if he had realized her with his thoughts. "Hello, Jack." Calmly, as if nothing had happened, Isabella said, "I've been sent to the branch to work. I was hoping you could show me around and give me a sense of the scope of work. What? Oh, yes, of course, Isabella. I'm sorry. The man pulled himself together. It's just so sudden, especially since I was just thinking about you. So I was confused when I saw you. Why would you do that? There's nothing special about my appearance. Coldly, Isabella smiled. She was so businesslike and collected, as if there was nothing between them, and so charming, so native and necessary. And yet, yes, you are here on business. Let me show you where to start, said Jack, trying also to keep to a business tone. He did not dare to talk about the events of the recent past. Isabella also did not touch these topics. Further, they communicated only on work. Well, it's clear he will not find out any relations now. The woman thought, we won't be able to talk about everything at work anyway. And what if afterwards he just packs up and leaves? And nothing? Then everything will be clear, although very unpleasant. Unfortunately, that's what happened when at the end of the day, Isabella decided to give Jack the documents she had checked. The secretary said, "Leave them with me. I'll give it to you tomorrow morning." Jack had already left today. Good. Trying to keep a businesslike appearance, Isabella replied. She left the papers and walked out. Well, that's it, and this stage of your life is safely over. You could say to this Jack, "Thank you for not dragging out this story." But why? He wasn't going to do that, but what am I supposed to do? Should I quit? No, he seems to have forgotten everything, and soon I will too. And for me to have an affair, or even a light flirtation with a colleague, no way. I mean, I've decided that I'm not having an affair with anyone or anything else at all. She went to her workplace. She had to get ready. The working day was over. Most employees were already saying goodbye, and he wouldn't even say goodbye. He's touchy. Isabella thought, trying to keep her thoughts mocking, almost succeeding. She got ready, went outside, walked anxiously, without looking around, to her car. She wasn't in the mood, but there was no need to hide her feelings either. No one would see her. No one was interested in her anymore. Suddenly, she almost jabbed her face into a large rustling bouquet of flowers, raised her head, Jack. "Isabella, I wanted to apologize. I acted like an idiot, like a bore. I've said some things that I'm unbearably ashamed of. I know it's not easy for you to forgive me, to accept me, but will you give me another chance? Are you crying, Isabella?" She was not crying. That is, she was not sobbing or moaning. Just the nerves, tense in the last few days, suddenly relaxed, and the tears themselves flowed down her cheeks, washing away all the resentment and doubts. "Have you forgiven me, Jack?" she asked. "All the nonsense and nasty things started with me." "Not at all. Let's forget it all, shall we? Let it be as if there was no argument, no spying and saying what I said. Isn't that possible? Of course it's possible. I really want to forget. It was forgotten. There was no more talk of the dispute or the scandal that followed. Soon their relationship was no longer a secret to anyone, and everyone was sure that this relationship was real. Such a beautiful and harmonious couple is not often met. Although once, almost a year later, Jack still reminded Isabella of her childish pranks that had connected them. One day, inviting the woman to a cafe for dinner after work, he suddenly said, "Isabella, do you remember how it all started? You know, that argument with your friend?" "You bet." Isabella smiled. "But I thought we agreed not to bring it up." "Quite right. But now it's quite clear that you've won the bet, and my heart is in your pocket, isn't it?" "Yes," the woman confirmed with a puzzled expression. "What was the bet? A ring?" "As far as I know, your friend never bought you one, did she?" And so Jack pulled out of his pocket a box containing a beautiful ring. "Will you please be my wife?" A year later, Jack and Isabella's co-workers were celebrating their happy wedding.